and feasible platforms, I plan on inspiring all Bruins, especially transfers, to get out, to get involved, and truly enjoy everything our campus has to offer. I plan on doing this through first, Show Me the Ropes, a mentorship program linking incoming and senior transfers where information can be transferred. Second, the Bruin Smart Card, a revolutionary way to gain access to the gym, late night Powell, and discounts in Westwood through your phone. And finally, the Hangout, a weekly space dedicated to commuter students focusing on postgraduate success. Now, I just want to share my UCLA story with all of you. When I applied here as a freshman, I got rejected. And of course, I was frustrated. However, my frustration only fueled my motivation to transfer here in just 1 year. How can I do this? I identified the obstacles before me, then crushed them. Now, here at UCLA, I'm here to crush all the obstacles facing transfer students. When I got to UCLA, I immersed myself within the student body, getting involved with the internal vice president's office, working within the transfer advocacy committee. I got involved with Tamid, an entrepreneurship club that I'm now the vice president of. I also got involved with the Persian community at Hillel and the transfer undergraduate students at Hillel, in which both I have leadership positions. Now, too many transfers just come to class, then go back home, not taking advantage of everything UCLA has to offer. What I'm here to do is facilitate the transition and involvement of all Bruins, specifically transfers, onto our campus. My name is Ariel Orfalian. I'm your next transfer student representative, and we are Bruins United. Okay, we will move on to Caesar Flores when you're ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Caesar Flores, and I'm a transfer student. And in community college, I've been actively involved in my community college. I served as the Senator of Legislative Affairs, and I also worked for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges. So that's like the UCSA for community colleges. I received a leadership certificate and was part of 2 hiring committees at my community college. Furthermore, I was appointed by the student body president for Senator of Legislative Affairs. Then I became part of the SSCCC by unanimous vote of the council, which was the external vice presidents at CC. Professionally, I have the experience in banking by which I interacted with people of diverse backgrounds. So therefore, my team will work hard with the California Student Aid Commission and other organizations to address your needs. Lastly, I was an assistant campaign manager for a member of Congress, by which I was held to the highest ethical standards for campaigning, and I was not promoting myself prior election with other Democrats taking pictures. Lastly, while some idealists are contemplating on solving the lines of Diddy Reese and winning the popular vote, I will work hard to listen, take ownership, empower, and create solutions. I will use the methods in electoral politics and grassroots politics to be your next transfer student representative. In addition to that, I will work with the CalGrad Inc. Commission to increase CalGrad Award for $3,000. I will next, if elected in office, I will work with election members to have a structured election code, and I will work with the city of Los Angeles to prevent towing and impounding of automobiles parked on Gailey.
Okay, we'll move on to the Q&A, and for the interest of time, when candidates give their speeches, keep your cheering and growling to a minimum. Maybe I say 5 seconds, loud clapping. And okay, so can we please have the first student group representative for the Transfer Student Alliance please ask your first question, and when you ask your question, after you ask it, step away from the mic when you finish.
Good evening. While it's important to establish spaces for transfer students to get to know each other and to create workshops that connect transfer students to important resources, those are all things that existing campus departments and student groups can accomplish and have accomplished. So if you're elected as transfer representative, how can you add value to the transfer experience in ways that student groups by themselves cannot.
We will begin with Kitiana. You have 30 seconds. We'll begin with Kitiana, and you'll have 30 seconds to respond. And then we'll proceed from left to right. And if you need clarification on the question, go ahead and ask to have the question repeated.
Well, working in both student groups as well as USAC, one thing that I learned with USAC, you can use it as a tool to work with administration to create institutionalized change. That's why one of my platforms that involves creating a transfer research conference here on campus would change the entire dynamic of transfers being here, coming here to do more scholarly work. I want to make sure transfers have the ability to do research here on campus that we may have not even thought about before. That's why with my platform, Transforming Education, we'll be able to delve into that scholarly work.
So right now, what currently exists is a transfer mentorship program linking incoming transfers with senior transfers, and that's what I'm going to be starting. Show me the ropes. Literally, we're going to be showing new transfers the ropes. I've talked to Heather Adams and Melissa Sinclair, the head of the BRC transfer student transition programs, who are on board with this. I also talked with the Bruin Association transfer students. We'll provide the mentors for this program to kickstart it and hit the ground running.
So what I will do is I'm going to reach out to companies to speak to their HR representatives and bring the HR representatives on campus. So maybe twice a week, or somebody from a different company is coming to look at your resumes and maybe look after other additional options that they want on a resume to improve that. I will fundraise and I will work with corporations to get that in here at UCLA.
Okay, can we have the next student group representative from Indus please come to the mic stand? I believe there's an on switch. I don't know if it's on and on the top. I'm not sure if it's on yet.
Hello.
Okay, perfect. We're good to go.
Okay, so good evening. What do you think is missing from the South Asian transfer community, and how have you or what do you plan on doing to fix that and help the South Asian transfer community in particular?
Okay, so we'll begin with Ariel and then proceed from left to right back.
As of right now, I can't identify with that community, but as a council member, I know that it is my duty to further educate myself continuously on all organizations that are part of campus. However, this is a transfer community nonetheless, and all transfers do need the social experience. They need social wellness and academic success, no matter what part of the campus they're from. And that's what I'm going to be bringing with my platforms.
So what I will do to address that community is to raise awareness. I think that I would use methods of media through Facebook to raise awareness for individuals that are not aware of that community. And also, I don't have the knowledge myself, but I will also learn. And while I learn, I will empower others to make this a successful event for everyone. Furthermore, I will contact the media to raise awareness for the community.
I think something that's really missing from the South Asian transfer community is the visibility of that community specifically. A lot of times what happens specifically within certain populations is that a lot of times we deal with the stigma of being transfer students, especially here on campus. So I want to work on that stigma and especially bridge that gap between the different transfer communities through my platform called Transfer Trips, where we go through LA and take trips together and build that community together. I want to make sure they get the visibility and they feel like they have that community behind them.
Can I have the Indian Student Union representative and the Hillel at UCLA representative line up the mic with Indian Student Union first? Ask your questions. Yeah, followed by Hillel. Yeah.
Hi, I am subbing in as a representative for the Indian Student Union. And although you are a transfer representative, you're still responsible for voicing the concerns of all students at the council table. How do you plan on ensuring this?
So we'll begin with Caesar.
So I'm going to take ownership of this situation. And what I will do is I will have surveys, and I will have an open door policy at my office so that students can come in and talk to me or one of my staff. I realize that I'm not here to just represent the transfers. I feel that I have an obligation, a commitment to represent every student that comes here. So in addition to that, I will always address their issues regardless if they're transfers or freshmen. I'll take ownership and I'll create solutions.
Being a transfer student here on campus, especially working within the transfer student representative office, one thing that I always notice is that there's always a solidarity between traditional students and transfer students. So I want to make sure we keep that solidarity. The same way that traditional students have heard the voice of transfer students, I still want to hear the voice of traditional students as well. That's why whenever you're going through something, complain to me. I am a council member and I want to hear what you're going through. So while I'm sitting on council, I can change it and I can work on it as hard as I can.
While I am a transfer, I'm a Bruin just like everyone else. And I have two roles. One, as the head of the transfer representative office, where I represent transfers, but also I have a seat on the council. I have to represent all Bruins when I sit there. Through my initiative, the Hangout, anyone every week can come speak to me about any issues or anything that's on their mind regarding any organization or any issue. So this will be fantastic because when I sit at Kirkhoff 417 every Tuesday night, I can represent every organization to the best of my abilities.
Great. Okay, you can ask your question now.
Good evening. I am the representative for Halal at UCLA. And my question is, how do you intend to represent the Jewish community at the council table?
Okay, so we'll begin again with Kitiana and then proceed left to right.
If I have learned anything being here at USAC is that one of the most important things is representation. A lot of times I walk across this campus and I don't see people that look like me. And I understand these past few months the Jewish community has felt marginalized here on this campus, so I do want to work towards that. That's why ever since I became a social activist here on campus and outside of UCLA, I work towards a good campus climate here to make everyone feel comfortable. That's what I want to do. I want to make sure I hear their voices, I hear what they have to say, and I want to make sure I work towards creating a good campus climate for all students here on campus.
I don't know if I made this clear during my opening speech, but I'm a Jewish student leader on this campus. I have leadership positions in the Persian community at Hillel. I have another leadership position in the transfer undergraduate students of Hillel. Hillel has been a second home for me, a second family for me, a support system for me. And as on the council, I tend to do the same for them, be a support system for them, and serve as a member of a family for them.
I would like to remind you guys that when I was a student senate for California Community College, I was representing 2.2 million community college students, me and 29 other council members. So that's about 73,000 students that I represented. So I will always represent diversity because the Jewish community is special to me because my mentor was Jewish. And so she passed away. And so she was against the death penalty. So I will definitely support the Jewish community and other communities that need assistance.
Okay, we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So if the Transfer Student Alliance would like to ask another question, you may come to the mic.
So how will the Transfer Rep Office, pursuant to its bylaws, support the efforts of transfer student groups to host student-initiated yield events, which educate admits about life as a UCLA student and increase the amount of admits who commit to UCLA?
Okay, so we'll begin with Ariel.
So you mentioned the bylaws of the transfer representative office. And to my knowledge, in the bylaws, it says that the transfer representative office has to be a facilitator of resources. And as of right now, the transfer representative office has not done that. There's been 15 plus transfer resources on this campus, and the transfer representative office today has not utilized any single one of them. As your next transfer representative, I'm not here just to advocate for transfers, but I'm here to serve them and represent them with a true voice and a true passion.
So So I know that in the housing transfer bylaws for student transfer representatives, I realize that as a transfer representative, I'm the liaison for housing. And so I will always work with all the appropriate means to make this experience a great experience here at UCLA for everyone. I will hold my staff and myself to the highest ethical standards to promote this. And in addition to that, I will always work internally and move externally.
Being on the board for Black Transfer Student Success, my first year here, and being the co-president of Transfer Student Alliance, I have planned 2 different yield events. And one thing that I know being on the board for both of those groups is that we do want to make sure that we do keep it student initiated. That's why the Transfer Student Representative Office is supposed to be a support system. It's not supposed to run it, it's supposed to be a support system. So that's why we always, when we get resources for these events, we get it from the Vice Chancellor's Office of Student Affairs. And they have done a wonderful job in doing those events. That's why we need to make sure it's student initiated and we keep the Transfer Student Representative Office as a support system only.
Okay, thank you, transfer student representatives. That is all the time we have for the position. So
The Student Wellness Commissioner,
can I please have Jewish Voice for Peace? If you're interested in asking a question, come to the row. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Marvin Chen. Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Marvin Chen, and it has always been my dream to play in the NHL. To be your next Student Wellness Commissioner. To be drafted is truly, if I'm elected, it would be truly an honor to represent every student on campus for the health and wellness. And so, I remember when I first joined Search 2 years ago, Student Education and Research of Contemporary Health, one of the Student Wellness Commission committees. And then I got to see the stress test I put into action and then put in Bruin Plaza, events put on for every Bruin to come by, participate, and learn about their own student wellness. And I remember the directors telling me, if you have a dream, we can make it come true. And this is provided by the Student Wellness Commission, provides a unique opportunity to represent the students and utilize funds to give back to the student community and educate them and promote their wellness and maximize that health and wellness for everyone. The Student Wellness Commission is made out of 12 committees that covers every aspect of student health and wellness. And if there's any student group or organization that would like to work with any of us 12 committees, then they're more than welcome to reach out to me. We are more than happy to work with any Bruin or any Bruin organization on campus. And so, a couple of my platforms, if you like to vote for me, even though I already got drafted, but a couple of my platforms include: 1, organizing nutrition and fitness resources on campus into one cohesive resource for every student. Secondly, to increase sexual health and safer sex item distribution. And thirdly, to initiate the mental health discussion in different student organizations on campus. And I'd just like to say the real campaign has begun. Go Canucks Go, Stanley Cup 2015, yeah, hashtag USAC, make it count.
Thank you, Marvin. Jewish Voice for Peace representative, if you have a question. We have 5 minutes for questions, so whenever you're ready. Okay.
do you plan on accepting free trips from outside political organizations, such as the ADL or APAC, if you are elected to council? And do you think this constitutes a conflict of interest when voting on issues related to the Palestinian campus community?
Thank you for your question. First of all, I would not accept any free trips of any sort because my duty is to represent the students on campus via the council table, and any kind of consideration with whatever issue it is that is brought to the council table will have to be considered in the light of student health and wellness.
If you have any more questions, that is all. Okay, then you're free to go. So next we have the Financial Support Commissioner. And can I also have the student group representatives for the Transfer Student Alliance, Jewish Voice for Peace, Indus, Bengali Students Association, Indian Student Union, Mixed Student Group, and Union, sorry, Hillel at UCLA as well. Oh, and I'm sorry, yes, of course. And also the Samahang Filipino. Sorry. Okay, so when you are ready, Ruhi, you may begin with your 2-minute introductory speech.
Tonight, I want to talk to you about investments. Investments are at the core of our day-to-day decisions. We must decide how to invest our next hour, our next paycheck, and even our next relationship. Since my freshman year, I've chosen to invest in UCLA and its various student groups. I've improved the patient experience at Ronald Reagan through care centers. I've inspired young primary school students about health through Teach, and I promoted awareness of Indian culture as interim vice president of the Indian Student Union. Recently, I've invested in USAC in the Financial Supports Commission office. Over the last few years, I played a pivotal role in the planning of Holy, in the creation of parking transportation scholarships, and in the creation of UCLA's first ever lab coat loaner library. As the Financial Supports Commission's current director of student initiatives, and the only in-house candidate, I am the most qualified person to lead FSC this year. In my role this year, I've worked tirelessly to make UCLA more affordable for students, and I plan to continue that work. I already have established connections with key administrators, and I will begin implementing my initiatives and produce tangible and effective change on campus. Let me tell you about the changes that I want to make. First, I will facilitate postgraduate success by bringing Career Center resources directly to the Hill and on campus. Next, I will address the issue of financial literacy head-on and empower students to take charge of their finances in fun and innovative ways. I will also create more accessible loaner libraries. Ultimately, I will invest in you, the students, and ensure that your UCLA experience is the best that it can possibly be. UCLA is my home, and USAC is my passion. Tonight, the tables have turned, and I'm asking all of you to invest in me, in my passion, and in my drive, and in turn, I will lead the most successful FSC office UCLA has ever seen. My name is Ruhi Patil. I am your next Financial Supports Commissioner, and we are Bruins United.
Okay, Eddie, now when you're ready.
Hey Bruins, my name is Eddie Garcia and I am your LEDSAC candidate for Financial Supports Commissioner. As a current fourth-year Bruin striving to graduate by the end of his fifth year with a double major, I will use my experience as Staff Development Director within the General Representative 1 Office, Go Gen Rep 1 Fam, and the UCLA Student Giving Committee in order to ensure my office is working for all students. In order to ensure that my time at UCLA has been filled with amazing moments and very amazing people, I have faced many stresses in regards to my financial security. I come from a low-income family and understand the importance of receiving financial aid from the state and from the federal government. Students have a hard enough time achieving academic success at UCLA, let alone having to worry about cuts to financial aid and tuition increases. I represented 1.5 million students as a board member for the United States Student Association, and I saw a need for student leaders to advocate for all students on and off campus. As a National Affairs Director for the External Vice President's Office, I learned that all administrators all the way up from the UC Office of the President to the federal government have to work for students in order to earn their six-figure salaries. That is why I will create a Pell Grant Advocacy Task Force to advocate for all federal aid that over 39% of our campus receives. As an academic counselor, I learned that students fear taking out loans and are dissuaded from taking summer classes, missing opportunities to intern in Los Angeles. Through my summer school scholarship, I want students to have the chance to take summer courses and also build a resume for post-grad life. When we do get our financial aid reimbursement, I want to make sure your finances are secure and properly budgeted through workshops on financial literacy. I'm making sure you apply these into your daily lives to foster financial wellness. I am sure as students, money is always on our minds. That is why I would like to connect our student body with the greater Los Angeles area by fighting for a $15 minimum wage to reduce income inequality. Bruin, my name is Eddie Garcia and I'm your next Financial Supports Commissioner. Let's ask.
Candidates, can I have the following student group representatives please come to either one of the mics? Transfer Student Alliance, Jewish Voice for Peace, Indus, Bengali Students Association, everyone that I called earlier. And just line up the mics. I'll call your name when you do your question. Begin with the Transfer Student Alliance with your question, and we'll begin with Ruhi.
Parking and commuting can be very exhausting and demanding, both in terms of time and money for many transferring traditional students. How can you make commuting more affordable, efficient, and less problematic for students who do not live in your campus?
This year, our office has taken so many strides that past FSC offices have not done. For instance, we have created parking relations, we created resources of the parking relations, and this year we created the first ever parking transportation guide, and this is accessible on our website, and it lists all the open areas for parking as well as how to acquire permits. Next year, I will create a parking transportation guide and further relations with parking resources here at UCLA.
As your next Financial Supports Commissioner, I will do more than just create a parking resource guide that is ineffective. I will make sure that I am lobbying and representing all students at the national level, as I've already done so. I'm representing 1.5 million students to the United States Student Association Board. Through one of my platforms, I would like to make sure administrators are working for students, not only at the state level, but also at the national level. Through the Financial Supports Commission office, I want to make sure I'm working in the duality form and making sure that we are doing programming and also advocacy work. And not only that, but focusing on that work too for low-income students.
Jewish Voice for Peace, your question, please.
What power do you think USAC has to shape ethical investments at the UC?
We'll start with Eddie now.
Could you repeat the question, please?
What power do you think USAC has to shape ethical investments in the UC?
I think USAC has a lot of power in terms of passing resolutions and making sure that the University of California is protecting various human rights, not only at our level in terms of California, but around the world. Through one of my platforms, I will make sure that not only students, but also administrators are working for students. Through one of my platforms called Creating the Pell Grant Advocacy Task Force, I will make sure that students are at the forefront of administrators and making sure that they're working toward their six-figure salary.
UCLA students pay $150 for USAC, and as a official council member, it is so vital that we are representative of all undergraduate students at UCLA. These students hold us accountable for making decisions, and as a result, it is our duty to be representative of all student groups at UCLA. UCLA is so incredibly diverse, and as a council member, it is so vital that we represent all these various student groups.
Indus.
Hello. What do you think is absent from the what do you think is absent financially from the South Asian community, and how are you going to fix that?
Mental health. Mental health is such a huge issue in the South Asian community. As interim vice president of the Indian Student Union, I recognize that mental health is an issue that is stigmatized on campus, as well as in the South Asian community. Mental health can also cause a lot of financial problems, as students who have mental health problems oftentimes have to withdraw from UCLA and work at getting better. I will work with CAPS and the Financial Aid Office and making sure that students are aware of all the various resources so we can work on efforts of retention.
I think what is absent for the South Asian community and all communities on campus is financial aid. And through one of my platforms, I would like to make sure that students who want to do summer school have the ability to apply to one of my platforms to create the summer school scholarship. And I would advocate for the all South Asian community and also for doing class and organization representations for them to apply to this scholarship. One of the things that I also want to accomplish is to make sure that all student groups are advocated, not only on behalf of UCLA, but at the national level as well.
Bengali Students Association.
Hi, council members. What is your experience advocating for student affordability?
Through my position in the National Affairs Director in the External Vice President's Office, that is one of the prime goals that I've been working on, is to demand that Congress fully funds the program for this upcoming school year. Currently, right now, Congress is trying to cut $150 billion to the program, and through my advocacy work, we are actually planning an action April 23rd as a national movement to make sure that Congress is listening to students. I already spoke with Barbara Boxer and Diane Feinstein in order to make sure that they are supporting students and they are champions for student movement here on campus.
As FSE's current Director of Student Services, I have worked tirelessly with Heather Rosen, the current Financial Supports Commissioner, ensuring that UCLA is made more affordable to students at UCLA. I have created various initiatives that directly make UCLA more affordable on a day-to-day basis for UCLA students.
Indian Student Union? Okay. Mixed Student Union. Hello at UCLA.
Hi, how do you intend to represent the Jewish community at the table?
Begin with Ruby.
UCLA has so much diversity in sexuality, aspirations, nationalities, goals. As your next council member, it is my duty to be representative of all the various student groups at UCLA. Every community has its various distinct issues. As a council member, it is my duty to reach out to those various student groups.
Again, I represented 1.5 million students as the National Queer Student of Color Caucus Chair, and I will make sure that I represent the Jewish community here on campus as well. I want to make sure that I am inclusive in everything I do and through my office. That is why I want to make sure that my office is open to all students who are willing and wanting to work on national issues such as the federal program. Making sure that student accountability and affordability is always on my mind, because as a student and as a low-income student, I want to make sure that student affordability is always a hot topic, with not only within our campus, but also at the state and national level.
Hi, candidates. My name is Christine De Los Santos. I'm the administrative coordinator for Samoan Filipino. So, as FSC, how will you address the criminalization of youth of color through your office?
I think with my running mate, Danae Joseph, who is the co-founder of Ignite, me and her will be working alongside each other to make sure that that campaign is taking fruition. Also, as the board of director member within the United States Student Association, we have created the campaign to make sure that the state of emergency in terms of mass incarceration of people of color stops and is ended at the national level. Currently, we are signing a petition that has been going around campus, so I hope you all will be signing that as well to make sure that mass incarceration of people of color is stopped. And not only that, I would also be making sure that students are fully funded in terms of the program.
Ignite is definitely a very important campaign, and I respect the fact that it aims to pass several bills and constitutional amendments and urge the University of California Office of President to allocate $10 million to student recruitment and retention centers. And I will be working with my running mate, Zach Helder, working on these issues. Obviously important, but as your FSC, I will create tangible and effective change that affects USAC students on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, we have time for maybe one or two more questions. So if the Transfer Student Alliance has any more questions they'd like to ask.
How will you help improve financial literacy amongst the student body, particularly amongst transfers?
As a member of the Financial Literacy Task Force, it is so important that we continue our relations with specifically Sarah Potter, because the financial literacy is so important in helping students learn how to manage their finances as well as promote financial literacy. I have met with Sarah Potter and will continue to meet with her regularly. And in addition to that, I will work on creating a class for UCL units that will empower students to take charge of their finances and reclaim their finances.
I have met also with Sarah Potter and also Yolanda Morgan Copeland, who is the Vice Chancellor of the on campus, and we are working together to make sure we create a student debit card that helps students who cannot create their own debit card. We will make sure that they have one so that they could be financially stable and also budget their own money whenever they receive their reimbursement check. Sarah Potter is an amazing individual who has already started programming various events coming into fall quarter, so I will be working with her in order to make sure those events are advertised. That's part of the programming part that I want to do within the FSC office, but again, I also want to focus on advocacy.
Okay, we have time for one more question if Samahang Filipino would like to ask one more question.
How will you support the liberation of all people affected by colonialism?
So as somebody said in the audience, I am the internal vice chair. I met at the UCLA, and we work for the liberation of all peoples of color. Through one of those means, I also want to point out that Christopher Columbus did not discover America, and I want to make sure that we decolonize our mind and make sure that students are at the forefront of every movement here on campus. And through one of my platforms, through the Summer School Scholarship, I want to make sure that students who identify as low income have the affordability to make sure that they are taking summer school classes so that I could teach them during summer what decolonizing mind means.
As Internal Vice President of the Indian Student Union, I am very well aware of the various issues that not only the Indian Student Union faces, but that other student groups on campus face as well. For this reason, I will be working to reach out to all the various student groups on campus and figure out what issues they face and working to address these issues head on.
Okay, that is all the time we have.
Alright, everyone, please keep down. So just one thing, in the interest of time, please keep your hooting and cheering to as low as you can. I'm just saying that because if you all want to get to the president and ask as many questions as you all want to, that'll be a better idea because it's already 8:30 and we have the event just for 2.5 hours more, and we have a lot of positions to cover, including the executive offices and Gen Rep. So please keep your cheering and hooting down, and we get through the event really quickly. Thank you.
Also, can I get the student group representatives for Transfer Student Alliance, Jewish Voice for Peace, and Hillel at UCLA to sit at the chairs, please?
Way to go, Ian! Yeah, you're my facilities commissioner! He's all of our facilities commissioner!
Growing up in a small town affected by drought,
I remember scraping my knees, playing on fields that were more dirt than grass. And I remember realizing that for some families, the cost of water meant the difference between taking 5-minute showers and 15-minute showers was the difference between being able to pay their bills or not. Although the drought hasn't affected UCLA in the same way it affected my hometown, we must realize that we have a privilege of having fresh, clean water, and that it is our responsibility at this university to be leaders in protecting our precious but all too scarce resources. I grew up thinking about how to conserve water each and every day, and it is that culture of sustainability that I will bring to UCLA as Facilities Commissioner. With my passion for change and the experiences I have gained in 5 different USAC offices, I will make a positive change on this campus. Don't just vote for me because I'm the only candidate you can vote for. Support me because you are confident in my ability to create sustainable, tangible change at our university. You're stuck with me. As the only candidate for this position, I am your next Facilities Commissioner. Yeah, you are. But here's what you're stuck with. You're stuck with someone who will bring you free rides with Uber or Lyft to get you home safe late at night. Someone who will ensure that this platform is possible through conversations with Sherry Lewis of UCLA Transportation and Carolyn Boland of UCLA Risk Management. You're stuck with someone who will keep UCLA classy, not trashy, reducing the waste we produce through engaging programs and education. And you're stuck with someone who will make it easier for you and the student groups you're involved in to book spaces on this campus through a common application I'm calling Space Jam. Most importantly, you're stuck with a council member who will devote himself wholeheartedly to making this campus safer, more accessible, and more sustainable. And I hope that I have the support of each and every one of you in that endeavor. I'm Ian Cocroft. I'm your next Facilities Commissioner, and we are Bruins United.
May I have the representatives interested in asking questions please come up to the mics? And we'll begin with Hillel at UCLA with your questions.
My name is Alexandra. I'm substituting as representative for Hillel at UCLA. How do you intend to represent the Jewish community at the council table?
Whether it's through attending Shabbat dinners at Hillel on Friday nights, or having conversations with my Jewish friends, or attending events put on by the Jewish community on this campus, I have always strived to understand the multitude of viewpoints that exist within the Jewish community, and I will bring those viewpoints with me to the council table. And I will make it a priority to dispel the notion that Jewish students on this campus have divided loyalty. And I will be representing the Jewish students that live at UCLA.
Yes, can I have the Jewish Voice for Peace representative?
Do you plan on accepting free trips from outside political organizations such as the ADL or AIPAC if you are elected to council? And do you think this constitutes a conflict of interest when voting on issues related to the Palestinian campus community?
As a student leader, I think it is important that I take the time to learn about issues that affect all communities on this campus. One of which is the Israel-Palestine conflict. And I believe that getting educated on these issues is essential to have a sustained dialogue about these issues that affect these communities. And as your council member, I will ensure that if I take one of these trips, I will communicate with all groups that are affected by these issues.
Transfer Student Alliance?
What will you do to facilitate and advocate for the creation and planning of a transfer student center? What roles do you believe a transfer center should play in making our campus a better place for transfer students?
I believe that the creation of a transfer center is crucial for centralizing all the resources that transfer students can take advantage of on this campus. So currently it's obvious that we have a lack of space and that student groups and communities on this campus do not always have a place to meet. And that's why through my platform of a common application for student spaces, I will make that resource available to transfer students so that they will be able to meet on campus when they need to, and they will be able to come together to find the resources they need to be successful at UCLA.
Hello at UCLA, do you have any more questions?
How have you worked for or advocated for the needs of the UCLA Jewish community in the past?
Like I said previously, I have always strived to understand the points of view of Jewish students on this campus. And I've advocated by making sure that people that I know and my personal contacts are aware of that multitude of views and that they do not have false perceptions about this community.
We have time for 2 more questions from Jewish Voice for Peace and Transfer Student Alliance, if you have any more questions. No? Okay, well then you're dismissed. Thank you. Now may I please have the Cultural Affairs Commissioner, Amy Shaw. And the following student group representatives, Jewish Voice for Peace, Indian Student Union, and Hillel at UCLA. Whenever you are ready.
Hello, all you Bruins. My name is Amy Shao, and I am your USAC candidate for the Cultural Affairs Commissioner. As a daughter of Chinese immigrants, work was never an option, as opposed to the fact that it was rather an expectation. The privilege I have to sit before you all as a fellow Bruin is the narrative that past circumstances did not favor. Circumstances that have kept those before me, my parents, and have continued to keep those after me, my younger brother, from having the opportunity to tell the same narrative. And that is why I am here. I'm here to bring forth those narratives that make the Bruin experience the unapologetically beautiful story that it has become. As your next Cultural Affairs Commissioner, I will advocate for all students by providing opportunities for student and cultural organizations to be educated on the accessibility resources that the Commission has to offer, and how to utilize those resources to showcase the pride of their work within their own communities. I will increase the impact of the students at UCLA on the greater Los Angeles community by programming free dance workshops for the Los Angeles homeless youth. Let's Act acknowledges that beyond the parameters of this campus, UCLA is just a microcosm of the world. It is time that we think globally and act locally, because as Kendrick put it, we are all caterpillars in a cocoon. A cocoon that ceases to exist when we work to transform not only UCLA, but the world at large. As students, it is important that we speak the good into existence to continue the work towards a balanced intersectional solidarity that extends beyond this campus as we embrace the progress of our past while recognizing that the opposite of progress is to acting on continuous work. Let us speak the good into existence through our actions, Bruins. My name is Amy Shao, and I am your next Cultural Affairs Commission. Together, let's act.
Are there any questions for Amy from any of the student group representatives I called? Yeah.
I'm subbing into the Indian Student Union. Why are you qualified to be a USAC council member?
As your next Cultural Affairs Commissioner, my experience really speaks for itself in the sense that as a first year, I came in as a CAC intern. And as a CAC intern, I was able to work with all 9 series of the Cultural Affairs Commission. This past year, I worked as the administrative coordinator. But not only that, I want to extend beyond CAC in the sense that I was able to work with all student organizations beyond the Cultural Affairs Commission because we see ourselves as a commission to be inclusive and not exclusive.
Any more questions? Okay, Amy, you're dismissed.
Thank you.
The Community Service Commissioner.
Let's go!
And the student groups, Jewish Voice for Peace and Hillel at UCLA. Whenever you are ready.
All right, good evening. My name is Zach Dameron, and I am running to serve as your next Community Service Commissioner. As a current director within CSC and within my own community service organization, I have developed a wide range of experiences that will not only be beneficial as I lead the commission, but as I serve all students and student organizations next year. The unique thing about CSC is that we are not just another office. We are an entity made up of 33 student service projects here on campus, which collectively stands as the largest student-run, student-initiated service organization in the country. With this emphasis and direct connection with student organizations here on campus, this has led me to pursue my first initiative next year as commissioner, which involves working to improve the funding process here at UCLA for student organizations in order to ensure a more efficient and consistent process for applying to the different funding bodies on campus. Secondly, I want to increase the visibility of service opportunities on campus and engage students in service earlier on in their UCLA experience through the development of a CSC internship program within the commission, along with service fairs held on the Hill that organizations will be able to utilize for promotion and recruitment. Finally, I want to expand the reach of student service by collaborating with public entities in the Los Angeles community, like the mayor's office, in order to allow students to not just expand the scope of their service, but also give them a civic engagement experiences that encompasses new aspects like public policy. With my experience in the commission and the 33 student organizations that make up our office, I know that I will be able to not only help this commission move forward, but help be a voice for all students and student organizations on this campus. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from Jewish Voice for Peace representatives or UCLA representatives?
How do you intend to represent the Jewish community at the council table?
As we've heard tonight, commonly, it's about being open and being active as a USAC council member. And one of the things that I've noticed, especially as a commission, is that we're very institutionalized in the fact that we have our set programs in the way in which we do things and the service projects that go out there. And now it's about also connecting more with the student body and being a representative for them. So that's something that I want to do for all communities, including the Jewish community here at UCLA.
Woo! Any more questions from Jewish Voice for Peace or Hillel at UCLA?
What role do you believe conversations about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict have in USAC and on our greater campus?
I believe they have a very prominent role on our campus in that that's how we, one, create visibility about the different issues, but also educate those all across campus. And specifically within our commission, the Community Service Commission, I feel like that's a unique aspect in just creating awareness, because within the commission, we have over 2,000 students that serve our student organization. So that's one of the spots where we're able to increase that awareness in addition to all of campus in general.
Once again, any more questions from Jewish Voice for Peace or Hillel at UCLA? Okay, Zach.
Thank you.
And please have the Campus Events Commissioner come to the stage. And the following student groups that are interested in asking questions: Transfer Student Alliance representative, Indus representative, Jewish Voice for Peace representative, and Hillel at UCLA representative.
Got this, girl.
Can I just start?
Whatever you'd like.
Okay. Sorry. Hi, my name is Lexi Mossler, and I am your next Campus Events Commissioner. Over the 2015-2016 school year, I promised to uphold CUC's 50-year tradition of incredible film screenings, powerful speaking events, amazing concerts, and nationally recognized film festivals. But next year, I also want more. I will strive not for complacency within our commission, but for growth, encouraging my staff to program in new and innovative ways. One way I plan to do this is to revive our series of speaking awards given for lifetime achievement, an event that has honored such celebrities as Betty White, Tom Hanks, Morgan Freeman, and Robin Williams in past years. I'm also looking to host a larger scale event in the spring, a way to celebrate another successful year as Bruins and further build community on the UCLA campus. The past 2 school years I've spent on CUC have profoundly changed my time at UCLA for the better. We all come to college hoping to make incredible memories, expand our knowledge of the world around us, and hopefully create a positive impact on our campus and within our community. CUC has given me an opportunity to meet people and see events that challenge me to think in new ways. It has given me moments that I'll remember forever, and it is my mission over the next year as my time as commissioner to give back to my fellow Bruins everything that I have gained over the past 2 years.
I hope to serve you, to represent you, to challenge you, and to give you memories that will last a lifetime. Like the time you stood in the pouring rain to see the season premiere of Game of Thrones, saw Macklemore and Ryan Lewis perform in Ackerman Grand Ballroom, were the first people in the world to watch The Interview, and had an extremely open dialogue with a panel of adult film stars, and the premiere of 22 Jump Street. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to a great year.
Okay, we'll start with questions from Transfer Student Alliance.
This year, the Campus Events Commission has had a demonstrated record of supporting and including transfer students, especially so many transfer students being part of the CEC staff. How will you continue to ensure that this will be so next year? And how can you do better?
Can you repeat the last sentence?
How will you continue to ensure that this will be so next year? And how can you do better?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Greg did an amazing job last year, who was our past campus events commissioner, of including transfer students in our programming events. I think that was one of his platforms. And my job as a representative, not only to campus events, but to the UCLA student body, is making sure all groups feel included. So I would like to continue to reach out to transfer students, as well as to any student groups that would like to communicate with Campus Events Commission and increase programming with them on ways and understand ways that we can better support them as a community as well. Thank you for your question.
Can we please have Indus if you have any questions?
Hello, my name is Ria again. Hi. What are you going to do to help the South Asian representation in entertainment, especially within CEC?
Thank you for your question. I mean, as I said to the transfer students, it's my job as campus events commissioner to increase programming for all student groups and making sure all student groups feel represented. So I want everyone to know, from all student groups sitting here today, and even ones that are not, that my office is always open. I'm always open to emails and communication, calls, text, for any ways that I can help support your community and entertainment at the council table and beyond.
Jewish Voice for Peace, do you have any questions? Hello at UCLA.
How do you intend to represent the Jewish community at the council table?
Thank you for your question. Well, I am a Jewish student at UCLA, and I do actively participate in the Jewish community at UCLA. I'm the president of Challah for Hunger, which bakes and sells bread, or challah, to support Jewish World Watch and Mazon, which is a Jewish response to hunger. But as I've said previously, I work to represent all communities and would love to be open to dialogue with all communities on how I can increase representation.
Transfer Student Alliance, do you have any more questions?
How can you make campus events more accessible to and inclusive of commuting and non-traditional students?
Thank you again. So we do our concerts program, strives to not only do concerts at night in Ackerman Grand Ballroom, but to also throw shows in Bruin Plaza during the afternoon. So we will have actually a couple coming up in May. We're showing Magic Man, for instance. And so we always try to do our best to not only reach out to students that can attend events at night, but those who are commuting and be sensitive to issues that they may not be able to attend those events at night, such as our film screening.
Great. Jewish Voice for Peace. Hello at UCLA.
What role do you believe conversations about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict have in USAC and on our greater campus?
I think that all dialogue is important, and a great thing about UCLA is that we have the opportunity to hear dialogue from many different people from many different backgrounds and many different experiences, and as long as it's done in a positive and respectful way, then I believe that there is always a place for all discussion at the council table and on the UCLA campus, but when done in a non-respectful way, then there is no place for it, in my opinion, at the council table.
Thank you. That is all the time we have for the Campus Events Commissioner.
Thank you very much.
Can I now have the Academic Affairs Commissioner? student groups?
I love you, Chet!
Transfer Student Alliance, Indus, Jewish Voice for Peace, Indian Student Union, Hillel at UCLA, and Samahan Filipino. Can you please go to the seats in the center?
You trick!
And we will begin with the 2-minute introductory speeches, beginning with Trent.
Woo! When people ask me what position I play in soccer, I tell them I start at center bench. And while I joke with this answer, there is some truth to it. Growing up, I was never the most athletic kid, and everyone knew about that. But I embraced my role as a bench warmer, and I learned the value of teamwork, integrity, and humility. Eventually moving from the bench to the field, I've embraced the responsibility of every position I've ever played. And in the same respect, I've taken on almost every role in the Academic Affairs Commission. I've proven not only my versatility, but also my leadership. Due to my time as a member, director, academic appointment, and current chief of staff of the Academic Affairs Commission, I have worked to spearhead this office. In my first year, I have worked to save the LGBT minor. In my second year, I helped students navigate the academic resources and services available to them on this campus. And this year, I helped lead the movement to pass the diversity requirement, not just once, but twice. There comes a time for every bench warmer to take the field. And now, it is my time to lead the commission. It is my time to score the winning goal and to champion this office to fight for equitable and inclusive education. Let's go ahead and bring more Wi-Fi hotspots on campus so all students can find study spaces. Let's reinstate peer learning labs so all students can better succeed in their classes. And let's advocate for more efficient counseling services so all students can maximize their UCLA undergraduate academic experience. My name is Trent Kajikawa. I am no longer a bench warmer. In fact, I am your next Academic Affairs Commissioner. And we are Bruins United.
Hey Bruins, my name is Kevin Casasola and I'm your Let's Act candidate for Academic Affairs Commissioner. Being a queer South Campus volunteer and education studies minor, I have never felt that USAC was a space for my identities. Our voices have typically been absent or shut down, and that's why I'm here, to bring relevancy to USAC and UCLA and to the legions of STEM students who have been excluded, and to show all students that your major does not limit yourself to your involvements. Directly promoting access as administrative assistant in the community programs office and advocating for academic reform as campus organizing director of the external vice president's office, I have the drive and the understanding to create true academic change. As your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I will advocate for all students by continuing to improve our enrollment experience by advocating for an automatic enrollment option, an application for all students to receive alerts and notifications for our pastimes, and expansion of course descriptions to include expected workload. Working towards to increase pre-professional development and networks in our fields by increasing faculty and student interaction via faculty advising and connecting expected degrees to your majors and beyond. And also advocating for the expansion of cheaper resources from online textbooks and course readers to implementing a calculator lend-out library, and also increasing the transparency of our academic appointments so that they are held accountable to the students they claim to represent, so that our academic policies are working for us. As students, it's important that we take ownership of our academics at UCLA and utilize our collective power to take action. My name is Kevin Sandola Casasola, and I'm going to be your next Academic Affairs Commissioner. Ready, Bruin? Let's act.
We'll begin with questions from Samahan Filipino, if you have any.
Go Trent!
And we will begin the questions with Trent.
What statewide experience do you have in addressing academic inequity?
As your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I've already had the pleasure of working with Heather Rosen, the Bruin United candidate for the president, and Dr. Jen to address specific statewide academic inequities. In addition to that, I'm proud to be bringing forth a resolution this upcoming Tuesday to address statewide academic inequity. Are directly affected by this. As an education studies minor, I plan on bringing the information that I learned inside of the classroom to the Academic Affairs Commission so that we can effectively make change.
Every week I serve in historic Filipino town in downtown LA for my Filipino students out in space. And I'm also on the UC undergraduate committee or undergraduate experience survey where we have surveyed all UC-wide academic policy and what students really need. And as your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I will bring accountability and further advocacy on academic policy on the statewide level by not only making sure that the implementation of the diversity requirement is here, but also making sure that there is diversity curriculum in the School of Engineering.
Questions from Indian Student Union?
Thank you. Graduating seniors are not able to use the Career Center resources post-grad. What can you do about this as the next AAC? Thanks.
Beginning with Kevin.
I think it's a shame when graduating seniors don't know what they're doing with their post-grad. So I plan on making sure that students know what they're going to do their first couple of years here at UCLA. And I plan to do that by institutionalizing academic advising from faculty here at UCLA. As a bioengineer, it wasn't until I talked to my faculty advisor, Dr. Kamei, on what other pathways I can choose as a bioengineer. So I plan to bring that to the College of Letters and Sciences so you know whether or not you want to do pre-med, whether or not you want to do research, and who to go to and who to talk to for that.
Can I go ahead and get the question repeated?
I lost my voice at Dance Marathon. So, graduating seniors are not able to use the Career Center resources post-grad. What can you do about this as the next AAC?
Specifically for graduating seniors, as the Chief of Staff of the Academic Affairs Commission and the only in-house candidate, I've already met with the Director of the Career Center, Wesley Thorne, to address this issue. We are already in the works of planning on extending Bruin and other Career Center resources for 3 additional months after a student graduates. I will continue to work with the Academic Affairs Commission and continue to work with Heather Rosen and Ruby Patil in addressing this issue.
Questions from the Transfer Student Alliance?
So what would you do to help transfer students adjust to life at UCLA? What difficulties do transfer students face that traditional four-year students do not? And how will you address those difficulties?
Starting with Trent.
In my second year in the Academic Affairs Commission, I've had the pleasure of institutionalizing the how-to guide that AAC provides to all students. But as your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I look forward to working with Ariel Rafali and our next transfer student address issues that transfer students face on this campus. In particular, we're going to be showing transfer students the ropes here at UCLA. And I'm going to ensure that all transfer students maximize their UCLA undergraduate academic experience.
I think with transfer students here on this campus, they already have the struggle of just only having 2 to 3 years here at UCLA. That's why, along with Kitiana Hempstead, the transfer student candidate for within Let's Act, I will make sure to help her institutionalize her platform on making sure that transfer students have a place to show and develop their own research here at UCLA. I will make sure that not only is that platform here, but make sure that it's institutionalized because it's important that transfer students have a place to do research.
Indus?
Hello. So, how are you going to represent South Asians within AAC?
Beginning with Kevin.
I think one thing that I can relate to as an Asian American Pacific Islander is that I was funneled into this idea that I had to be pre-med, that I had to be a doctor as a bioengineer. And I think that is something that a lot of South Asians and a lot of Asian Americans do experience as well. That's why I want to make sure that with the institutionalization of faculty advising, that when we do realize that we don't want to be pre-med anymore, that we can talk to faculty and realize the different networks that we can have with faculty to make sure that we know what other majors there are and beyond. So we know we can ensure our postgraduate success here at UCLA beyond the scope of pre-med. As your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, I will strive to learn more about the South Asian community and in particular not use stereotypes thrown out here at UCLA. I will continue to reach out to multiple communities on this campus through our Academic Success Referendum Fund, which I've worked directly under Allison Bach in distributing to multiple communities on this campus. And I want to ensure that all UCLA students are making total usage of this fund so that all students can be educated about all of our different backgrounds to ensure that all of us feel welcome on this campus.
We have a time for a few more questions. Does Jewish Voice for Peace or Hillel at UCLA have any questions? Starting with Jewish Voice for Peace. Hillel at UCLA.
What role do you believe conversations about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict have in USAC and on our greater campus?
I believe that it is enormously important for the USAC Academic Affairs Commission to be working towards an inclusive campus climate. And in particular, when we look at the various communities on this campus, that we are overlooking the diversity requirement implementation. And by institutionalizing the diversity requirement committee, we can go ahead and work towards creating a space and creating the agency to create dialogue between both students groups so that all of us can move past divestment. I think that all issues, both global and local, whatever student issues that a student wants to bring up is pertinent to the Academic Affairs Commissioner and is important to USAC. As your next Academic Affairs Commissioner, and as someone who did help pass the diversity requirement here at UCLA, I will make sure that it is inclusive to all students. And I will do that by not only implementing a task force to make sure implementation is required, but also to include the student voices that have been excluded from the diversity requirement, and that is students who identify as engineers.
That is all the time we have. Thank you, the Academic Affairs Commissioner. May I please have the candidates for the general representative? Student group representatives from Hillel at UCLA, Transfer Student Alliance, Indus, Armenian Dance Group, Bengali Students Association, Students for Justice in Palestine, Jewish Voice for Peace, Alpha Gamma Alpha, Bruin Republicans, Indian Student Union, and Samahang Filipino, please come to cheers. and Jason, you are ready.
Hello, UCLA. My name is Jason Banks Regina, and I will be your next general representative. I'm running with the after party, to which you're all invited. Some of you may be wondering what the after party is all about. Well, the after party is the party to end all parties. It is the final form of UCLA politics. If you believe in freedom, equality, and America, then you believe in the after party. I'd like to detail my experience and qualifications. I'm qualified to run in this election because I'm a man of the people and a Bruin in every sense of the word. I love UCLA, am passionate about every aspect of this school, and I hate our arch rivals, the University of South Carolina, as much as I'm running because I believe that USAC has become to UCLA what Congress has become to the United States. These career politicians do not understand what the people need. Sarah Palin called herself a maverick, a political outsider. I think it's fair to call me the Sarah Palin of this election. Someone who is in over his head, but that didn't stop her, so it won't stop me. Most importantly, I am the voice of UCLA, in the same way that Jesus is the voice of our generation. I have several very important initiatives that I will accomplish during my time in office. I will fight against tuition hikes by angrily emailing Janet Napolitano every single day, telling her how we really feel. I understand culture. I understand what UCLA needs. I care, I understand, and I am your next general representative. Vote for the after party.
Hello, friends. My name is Anais Leontine Amin, and I'm your Let's Act candidate for general representative. The reason why I'm running is inspired by my father's struggles. He was an undocumented immigrant who came to this country with a few dollars in his pockets. He worked tirelessly to make certain that he would be able to provide for his family and have nothing stopping his way of making sure his children have the access to achieve their goals. This is why I'm here. I'm an Armenian-Iranian woman who has decided that nothing will stop in the way of her passions to create positive change. With hard work and dedication, while maintaining compassion and patience, I will be successful. And I was when I became the president of my associate student government at College of the Canyons. So as your next general representative, I will advocate for all students by institutionalizing a program between current graduate and undergraduate students in order for students to gain perspective and clarity regarding postgraduate experiences. Aside from this program, I will create forums specifically targeting environmentalism and the intersectionalities within environmentalism, such as women, men, and gender non-conforming individuals, dealing with stigma or what is viewed as normal in the environment they are placed in. Next, I will collaborate with the Cultural Affairs Commissioner to create an art mural, which is inspired by my being an artist. And this mural is for students to collaborate on projects that will make them conscious of the diverse communities on campus by painting prominent and inspiring leaders. I will also create a comedy night competition because we all need laughter and modes for de-stressing. So social justice and self-expression define who I am. And I am passionate about creating a positive environment where students of all backgrounds will collaborate on different or shared experiences as Bruin. UCLA deserves an individual dedicated to addressing relevant issues that affects us all. I am that individual fiercely committed to making UCLA feel more connected and empowered. I am Anais Leontine Amin, and I am your next general representative. It's
Hey Bruins, my name is Danny Siegel, and I'm standing up to fight for your rights as a student at UCLA. Because I believe we all have a vested interest in how our student fees should be spent. As a UCLA student, you are required to pay $150 per year to USAC, so you all deserve a tangible improvement in your student experience. With my on-campus tailgate, we will foster school spirit as we cheer on our amazing football team when they play away from the Rose Bowl. With my initiative to engage students for the 2016 presidential election, you will go to the polls with a real knowledge of who deserves your vote. And with a flea market on campus, students will be given access to a marketplace where they can sell and exchange goods at discounted rates among one another and with members of the greater Los Angeles community. As I approach the midpoint of my time here at UCLA, I reflected back on the experiences and people that supported my desire to represent my peers. The close-knit bonds I cultivated with my brothers and my fraternity, Alpha Epsilon Pi, has reignited my dedication to the protection of my constantly challenged Jewish identity. My engagement in Bruin Democrats has allowed me to partake in a constant critical dialogue among my peers that has enhanced my acceptance of different perspectives. I am here before you, honored and humbled, with a unique drive to repay my debt to the school that has made me the person I am today. We must realize our true Bruin ideals and stand up for the entire student body. We may find our campus at a crossroads, but our future will include a road towards prosperity for all students. This road includes promoting school spirit and efforts to reduce costs. It must include a university that protects your access to higher education. It must include putting the quality of campus life first and not neglecting the contemporary issues that students deal with on a day-to-day basis. It is time for a new path, a new set of ideas, and above all, a new student government in which tangibility trumps theatrics. My name is Danny Siegel. We are Bruins United.
Hello, beautiful Bruins. My name is Khan, and I'm your USAC candidate for general representative. As an Indian woman, I've often felt underrepresented and marginalized. I know what it feels like to not feel a part of a community. However, UCLA is what helped me find a home I was always in search of. By getting involved in religious and cultural organizations, serving as the multicultural engagement director of the general representative, going on clinic trips to the town of Maclovia, Rojas, Mexico through Fellowship for International Service and Health, and co-creating Chai Talks at UCLA. I have learned to listen to student voices and properly advocate for change. As your next general representative, I will make sure that every student on this campus feels comfortable taking ownership of their identities, agency of their narratives, and recognizes the struggles that made them who they are. At UCLA, I want to expand on the wholesome ideas of eat, pray, and love. Eat. Through Chai Talks and the Hub, I saw the beauty of this campus in the form of diversity. I will increase coalition building and cross-cultural exchange through regular night markets and expanding cultural exchange initiatives to the greater Los Angeles area. Pray. Like the safe space that many folks have found in Chai Talks, I will establish a non-denominational prayer and meditation space that can serve as a safe space and interfaith center for all students on this campus. Love. Having been involved in several different religious and cultural organizations, I've personally seen different needs that are not being met. By extending mental health resources to cultural and religious groups, I will make sure all students feel comfortable addressing their well-being. As a South Campus student, it was hard trying to balance my passion for social justice issues and maintaining academic stability. By establishing a peer mentorship program, I will help first-year and fifth-year students better navigate this campus academically and how to better become a part of our UCLA community. As students, it's important for us to remember our struggles in history as we move forward as Bruins on this campus and in this world. Let's recognize our identities. Let's recognize our communities. Let's create transformative change. Let's act.
Reiterate that if there are any disruptive outbursts, we have the right to disqualify you from the endorsements process. So you are representatives of your student groups, and we want to keep everything respectful for the candidates during their speeches, as well as during their Q&A time. So if any disruptive outbursts occur again, we will escort you out. Whenever you are ready.
Hello, Bruins. My name is Jameson Cortez, and I'm your USAC candidate for general representative. I'm a first-generation Filipino American who takes pride in shattering stereotypes and defining my identity on my own terms. As a progressive student of color in Greek life, I also know what it's like to be stereotyped, misrepresented, and misunderstood. I embrace the challenge of building community between people who believe they're more different than they are similar. And I work to empower students to fight oppressive institutions while respecting the unique experiences and humanity of the people around me. Working in the Financial Supports Commission, the Office of the President, the External Vice President's Office, and the Campus Events Commission, I know what works in USAC and I know what doesn't. And serving in Samahang Filipino, Sigma Nu, the Alumni Scholars Club, and other groups on campus, I know what we need to work on outside the USAC bubble to actively support student organizations. As a former dancer on ACA Hip Hop and a campus tour guide, I've been representing UCLA wherever I go, and I'm honored to introduce future Bruins to their new home, the best university in the nation. I really do love this place. That's why I believe it's our responsibility to foster a safe and supportive Bruin community, ensuring that this campus is a home for us all. As your next general representative, I'm going to centralize campus resources and promote peer advising through UCLA Pro Tips, an online community for sharing Bruin life hacks, local LA tips, and empowered advice. I'll advocate for harm reduction and administrative support regarding substance abuse, dependency, and addiction by extending the All of Us mental health campaign. And I'll empower the Bruin community through the Know Your Rights campaign and symposium, educating students on their tenant rights, civil rights, and legal resources. I'm a Bay Area Bruin, and I've got hella ideas, hella experience, and hella passion. I believe that student government can work to empower students, create change, and build community. But my beliefs alone mean nothing without your support. I'm Jameson Cortez. I'm your next general representative, and together, let's act.
The day is August 10th, 2012, and I'm standing at the back of a classroom listening to a group of kindergartners talk about why they love school so much. These 200 kindergartners and their families live in one of India's most impoverished and underserved regions. And after 3 months of personally going door to door to convince them that a quality education would open up a world of opportunity, they were finally there seeing it in action. My passion and fight to harness collaboration and innovation to affect change began young and has only grown stronger. I'm here before you today because I want to harness innovative potential of Bruins here. I want to promote understanding and collaboration on this campus to create a dynamic UCLA that is always ahead of the curve. My platforms will bring Bruins together to cooperate and create, advocate for global postgrad opportunities, and engage this campus community to be more culturally aware. Bruins, let's disrupt the status quo and really create a dynamic UCLA that is on the map as a leading global institution. My name is Aditi Agrawal. I am your next general representative, and we are Bruins United.
Hello, Bruins. My name is Matt Heslip, and I am your next general representative. When I was in the 2nd grade, I was one of the worst in my class at long division. No matter how hard I tried, I simply could not understand it. Then, one night going over my homework with my father, he showed me a new way to divide. And then, everything clicked. After that, I learned the value of a fresh perspective. I learned that all problems have several solutions, and those solutions can be found by approaching the problem from a different angle. I believe that I am USAC's different angle. I have a wealth of experience here at UCLA, including being the president of the Sigma Chi fraternity, at UCLA Coaching Corps, and a camp counselor for UCLA Camp Kessler. Through my involvement in these organizations, it will help bring invaluable assets when I sit on the council table next year. I'll be able to bring fresh, new ideas, and my 3 main platforms of Make UCLA Happening, Winterfest, and the Countdown to the Inverted Fountain will all help to bring true Bruins together and enhance traditions we have, while also building to create new traditions on campus. After all, when we look back at our time here at UCLA, we may not remember all the homeworks we did and the finals we took, but we will remember those experiences we shared as fellow Bruins here at UCLA. I am Matt Heslip. I am your next general representative, and we are Bruins United.
Given the intense amount of interest for the general representative positions and the number of candidates, we have an increased amount of time for the general reps, but we are going to attempt to get at least 1 question for each of the student group representatives. So if we could please begin with the Armenian dance group, and bear with me when we go through the questioning process. I'll try to remind everyone, but I may make a mistake, but hopefully I will not. But we will begin with Jason, and if the Armenian dance group has a question to ask.
Hi. My question is, what conditions connected to the Southwest Asian, North African, or SWANA communities are you planning to address during your time in office?
Well, that's a great question, and it deserves a great answer. I know you're thinking of a great answer, and it's strange because I'm thinking the exact same thing that you are. That's what I'm gonna do. Thank you.
I love this. All right. So I personally identify as Swana, Southwest Asian North African, as I'm Armenian and Iranian. And so one of the biggest issues in our community is the fact that there's genocide denial still going on. And this Friday, April is going to mark the 100 years of the genocide denial. And so as your next general representative, I want to make it clear that any community who feels that they're not being represented enough can come to me and tell me that we need you to advocate for our issues.
As a future council member, I know it's my responsibility to represent the entire student body of UCLA. Though I'm not a member of SWANA, I want to be vigilant in educating myself and being aware of the concerns this community faces on a daily basis. So at the council table next year, I can be a fearless advocate for the issues that this community, in addition to any community UCLA faces, so that we can all have a better college experience.
I personally identify as being cis-Swana, which is South Asian, Southwest Asian, North African, and we often have the same problems. I've definitely identified this through Chai Talks, that is a safe space started for South Asian students, but it definitely identifies with all communities of color. Some of the things that the Swana community has identified with that we've talked about in this space that has not been talked about enough include sexual assault, domestic violence, and gender roles. I want to continue these talks through my night market, which will be available for all communities on campus, including the Swana community. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
As I said during my opening statement, I often have felt misrepresented by leaders in USAC. It's my goal as your next general representative to ensure that I don't do that. So I'm fortunate enough to have two beautiful, amazing Swana sisters that I'm running with for general representative. And upon consulting with them, as I was formulating my platforms, we found that a lot of people of color, a lot of communities of color especially, find that they are Know Your Rights campaign. People of color need to know their rights. That's what I'm going to do for the Swana community and for all people of color here at UCLA. Thank you.
I think a significant issue faced by the Swana community is the politicization of their identity, and it's something that I, as a South Asian individual, have faced myself. I think this stems from a lack of understanding and education about other communities on this campus, and I hope to address this head-on through my Bruin First Fridays platform, which will bring together food trucks that sell cuisines from different parts of the world, as well as cultural and performing arts groups on this campus to celebrate our diversity and educate us to be more culturally competent.
Although I do not directly identify with the Swana community, when I sit on the council table next year, I plan to address those student leaders to better understand those microaggressions and those struggles that they face here on the UCLA campus. And again, when I do sit on the council table, I plan on representing all Bruins here at UCLA.
Yeah, you will!
Can we please have the Bengali Students Association representative?
Hi, Gen Rep. I just want to send some love to y'all because that was a little rough over there, okay? So my question is, how will your office make sure it is making institutional change and not just putting on one-day program? Thank you.
Hi, so one of my platforms is about institutionalizing a mentorship program between current graduate students and undergraduate students. Why this is vital is that there's no program that is institutionalized right now that's going to target the easing transition for undergraduate students and making sure that they want to pursue postgrad education. I've contacted Michael Hirschman, who is the Graduate Student Association president, and he's very enthusiastic about working with me and collaborating with me and making sure that this program will be institutionalized and carry over for years.
I believe that the priority of my platforms that I want to bring to the student body next year is creating institutional change. With my first platform, having an on-campus tailgate, I've already spoken to Vic DeLuca, Student Affairs, as well as UCLA Athletics and their sponsors to ensure that this on-campus tailgate to promote school spirit and seeing our football team be successful is going to be an institutional program for years to come. Having these relationships with administrators ensures that the continued success of this event years after I leave office.
worked as the Multicultural Engagement Director of the General Representative 1 office, I've been working to institutionalize the Hub. The Hub is a multicultural center, and I've already spoken to Unina Montero and McDeluca as to why this is important, and it's an important center to have and establish as a permanent space on campus, and they've definitely seen the need of that, as well as seeing that we've put on the Hub multiple times and are planning to at least do it again this quarter. I'm going to institutionalize as well the non-denominational prayer space that I've already presented to the ASUCLA Board of Directors about.
Let's Act believes in empowering all Bruin communities here at UCLA. One issue that's really near and dear to my heart is the stigma surrounding substance abuse and addiction and dependency. So I plan to institutionalize that by making sure that we're getting additional administrative support for services. I want to make sure that when you're taking any type of controlled substance, that you really know what you're taking. I'd like it if Ash Center could provide test kits, for example. It's Coachella season. People are taking things that they don't know what they're taking. I think that's a problem. So we provide useful services to students, and they're so useful that we have to institutionalize them because they're practical and they actually make an impact in the lives of students. So thank you.
Creating institutionalized change is a significant challenge for the Gen Rev office, and through my platform, Talk Worldly to Me, which is advocating for global postgrad opportunities for all Bruins, I hope to be able to work with the Career Center to institutionalize change. I want to be able to work with the Career Center to institutionalize a global career counselor who will assist Bruins interested in working abroad as well as working here. I've already spoken to Wesley Thorne, the director of the Career Center, and making steps towards this.
I plan on creating lasting institutional change through my UCLA Happenings app. This is a streamlined and comprehensive UCLA app that takes the online Happenings events calendar and takes all UCLA registered events and will put them directly to your mobile phone device. This will be institutionalized by giving it to the freshmen as soon as they show up, and instead of receiving a huge Happenings calendar that's 10 feet long and is not updated regularly, they can have that UCLA app that will be updated regularly and give them the information they need. Thank you.
These were all great answers. Mine will be the best. I hear you. You don't want one-day programs, you want everyday programs. That's why I will angrily email Janet Napolitano every single day. You can sign up to use my email address and tell her how you really feel. In addition, we will make the Deneb crosswalk longer because it's just too short, and that's a fact. That will last a lifetime.
Can we please have the representative from Alpha Gamma Alpha? Okay. Representative from Bruin Republicans.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So my question is, many students and student groups at UCLA do not participate in student government elections because their student government is entirely irrelevant. USAC has spent the last several years passing meaningless resolutions that do nothing to improve the lives of students at UCLA. What will you do to make USAC relevant to the student body?
Beginning with Danny.
Well, I believe that USAC ought to be relevant to the entire student body, and we can start that way with UCLA Works, my plan to engage the student body for the 2016 presidential election. By getting students excited for our upcoming presidential election, by bringing policymakers, analysts, members of campaign teams to campus, using my connections within political campaigns I've worked on, as well as partnering with the Luskin School of Public Affairs and our own political science department, we can make students interested because we're focusing on something that affects every resident of UCLA, the presidential election. Regardless if you're going to vote in the election, being able to be involved in that is great.
I disagree with the fact that you said that resolutions are irrelevant, because they're definitely very relevant. I think the fact that we recognize the Armenian genocide, that we're working on recognizing the Sikh genocide, that we recognize anti-Semitism on this campus is extremely important to recognize, and also to know what campus climate is really like. By making USAC relevant, I will be making sure to institute a peer mentorship program that will be relevant to first year, second year, and transfer students who feel very lost, not only academically, but also on figuring out how to navigate this campus. They'll feel more welcome as Bruins when they know they can have the help of USAC as soon as they enter the school.
You right?
I plan to make USAC more relevant by ensuring that we're doing tangible work for all students, including Bruin Republicans, Bruin Libertarians, Bruin Democrats, Bruin Progressives, everyone. For example, the Know Your Rights campaign and symposium. It's important that when you're signing your first apartment lease, you know your tenant rights. It's important that when you're at a traffic stop, you know your civil rights. It's important you live on the Hill that you're aware of your rights to privacy, even though we're a federally funded university and you have to abide by on-campus housing council rules. So with that campaign, I think that you'll find that I am relevant to you.
I will make USAC relevant to Bruins from all pockets of campus through my Innovate U platform. This will bring Bruins from different backgrounds and different majors and fields together to collaboratively create unique student-initiated solutions to some of the biggest problems that we face on this campus.
All three of my platforms are fun, feasible, and friendly. They focus on promoting inclusion within the UCLA community, and my goal is to re-engage all students in USAC and the student government process. I plan on using my seat on the Interfraternal Council and using those already established direct lines of communication between all presidents of IFC to come together and engage again with the school and the process of student elections that they have been missing out on in recent years. Thank you.
I disagree with your statement. I think USAC is very relevant and all-powerful. People tell me all the time, USAC does so much for me in my life. So that's why I want to reel in big government. With my first platform, Let's Not Act. Small government. The top 5 floors a bunch are just people listening into your conversations, similar to the NSA. And we will reel in USAC and make it less relevant.
I just want to point out that USAC does matter because you're paying a student fee and that money is going to your student government, so you should know what your student government is doing and you should have a voice about the opinions that's going on. Aside from that, it is my duty as general representative to make sure that all student members feel inclusive on this campus and to make sure that I'm advocating for safe zones on this campus. Prior experience, I advocated for LGBTQ safe zones to be implemented at my community college because the LGBTQ community did not feel safe on my campus. It was a resolution, but it was acted on afterwards. So I want to stress how important that is as a general representative to make sure that resolutions are acted on after you vote on them.
Can we please have the representative from the Indian Student Union please come to the mic if you have any questions?
Hi there. So, many students on campus still feel disconnected from their student government. How do you plan to reach out to students in new and effective ways? Thank you.
Beginning with Aaliyah. Alia.
I will be making sure that USAC can get students involved through more fun and familiar ways, such as through my night market platform. That'll be institutionalized through having different cultural night markets and having students come and want to enjoy food because everyone loves food and everyone loves having fun and being in a casual, fun environment in order to learn about other cultures. I'll also be expanding this through access projects to the greater LA area for students who haven't even reached LA yet or reached UCLA yet to learn about these cultures through the best way possible, which is food.
So every USAC every USAC election year, there's a generic that has some sort of centralizing campus resources platform. Now, when I sat down to do that this year, I realized that we had to make it not basic. So the idea of engaging students and really ensuring that they were participating in this program, I'd seek to accomplish by instituting UCLA Pro Tips. So we're going to centralize campus resources, but we're also going to provide an engaging social media forum for students to help students, for local LA students to help people from the Bay Area, and for people who know a little bit more about the administrative processes and power structures to help those who are new to it.
I think a major way for students to feel connected with USAC is to have their voice heard in creating solutions to problems that this campus faces and being able to relay those solutions back to administrators. Through my Innovate U platform, I want to take the unique solutions that you come up with collaboratively, relay them back to relevant administrators and work towards implementing them from the very get-go.
I want to focus on things that all true Bruins can appreciate. The countdown to the inverted fountain is a 50-item bucket list of things that all Bruins should strive to complete before they graduate. These are things such as a concert at Royce Hall, going to your last pint night at Maloney's, and also getting yourself in the UCLA Under Your Undoing finals. All of these things will contribute to a better true Bruin experience, and they're going to end with jumping into the inverted fountain and graduating and becoming a UCLA alumni. Thank you.
If elected to the general representative position, I would refuse to reach out to students because I believe that USAC is similar to the government in the book 1984. They have far too much influence, and I think it's absurd. Thank you.
Through my platform, creating the art mural, which is called Van Let It Go, by the way. So, in collaborating with the Cultural Affairs Commissioner and making sure that all students feel connected to student government, I want to be able to have all different cultures provide their feedback and who was prominent leaders within their culture and communities, and who they find were really representative of their ideals and the community values and cultures. And so when I create this art mural program that I will co-program with CAC once again, this will showcase all the diverse communities on campus and make everyone feel included with the student government.
You know, I thought about this for a while. An easy way to make USAC innovative and engaging with students is linking USAC and beating USC. Through my on-campus tailgate platform, I want to bring football games that we can't see at the Rose Bowl to Poly Pavilion, so students can go chill with their friends, even if you don't like football, and go hang out and have a great time. This is a way for all students to get behind something we all like, seeing our Bruin athletics succeed.
Can we please have the student group representative from Indus come to the mic?
Hi, I'm subbing for Ria. So what do you think is missing from the South Asian community, and how do you plan to make your programs and initiatives kind of relevant to our community?
Beginning with Jameson.
I don't think that anything's necessarily missing from the South Asian community. I think it's beautiful the way it is here at UCLA. But I think that one thing that USAC and student government in particular could do to serve the South Asian community better is really listen to your stories and ensure that they're being told, and that we're listening to them and instituting them into our platform. So I plan through UCLA programs to ensure that the experiences of all communities, as unique as they are demonstrated to other students so that other people can learn from the experiences that you might not experience yourself.
I think as a South Asian student myself, what I have realized is that there is a lack of understanding about our issues and a lot of preconceived notions that people tend to have about us. As a South Asian student, having faced microaggressions myself, I understand that this really comes from a lack of education about our issues. Through Bruin First Fridays, I want to be able to celebrate our diversity, the diversity of all the communities on this campus, and still educate us so that we're more culturally competent.
Although I'm not a member of that community, when I'm elected on council, I plan on reaching out to those student group leaders so I can better understand the struggles that they face each day on UCLA's campus, and I can better understand what they would like to see from their student government. I also plan on working towards making those students' experience on campus as memorable as possible. Thank you.
I'd like to answer your question with a question. What do you think is missing from the South Asian community? I'd like to know the answer because I would like to represent you.
Oh wait.
So as an Armenian, I've always had to struggle with making sure that my voice was being heard. And so I think it's so crucial that as general representatives, we make sure that we provide that outreach and that constant communication with the South Asian community and every other community on campus that feels that their voices aren't being heard, and build those relationships to effectively advocate for any issue that they feel is relevant to them. As your next general representative, I will make it my duty to make sure that I maintain those relationships within leaders in the South Asian community.
As a member of Bruin Democrats at UCLA, I'm proud of our club's championing values, which are promoting the inclusion and equality for all communities on our campus. As a general representative, I want to seek to educate myself and strive to promote the the issues and concerns that all communities face on this campus, including the South Asian community, and take the progressive values that I hold dear to myself and implement them at the council table so all student groups feel included on our campus.
Like most of my running mates mentioned, a lot of South Asian issues go untalked about, which is why I started Chai Talks. In Chai Talks, we've talked about several issues that are that have not been talked about in the South Asian community, and in the process, we've had a lot of cross-coalition community building. I look to expand Chai Talks and also through my Hungry for Change platform and my night markets, bring together these South Asian organizations, have a South Asian night market because we have some bomb food, and also make sure that they all decide on an issue that we can attack and talk about, to educate other people about, and to get involved with other outer LA organizations to bring light to these issues.
Okay. Can we please have the representative for the Jewish Voice for Peace? If you have any questions, come to the mic.
Hi. Given that our university is currently invested in companies that are involved in human rights abuses against Palestinians, what will you do to ensure that Palestinian students feel safe on this campus?
Beginning with the DG.
As a council member and as someone who's casting a vote at the council table, it is extremely important for me to come from a position of being absolutely educated. I want to be able to engage with students, student groups, and student leaders who are invested in this issue, be able to hear their perspectives and their stories so that when I'm at the council table, I can be an ally and I can advocate and vote after making a real educated decision.
I plan on meeting with student group leaders on both sides of the issue to better understand their individual points of view and why they have those. I will work on continually educating myself day in and day out, and when I sit on the council table, I will strive to represent to the best of my abilities all students on campus, including those that have those different points of view on very polarizing issues. Thank you.
I believe that we should invest in companies that are operating domestically so as to avoid human rights issues, because that way UCLA could be directly responsible for bringing jobs back home to the United States. Bring our jobs back home, because I love America.
I think that any group of individuals need to voice their concerns. Specifically for Palestinians, if they feel that they need effective representation, I'm here. I'm here for you to come to me and express your concerns, because I know what it feels like to feel marginalized. And I know what it feels like to feel as though my voice isn't being heard. And this comment is directed to every single community on campus who feels as though their voice isn't being heard and their issue is not being addressed.
As an elected representative of the student body, I know it's my responsibility and duty to every student at the school to understand the concerns that every student, regardless of the community that they are from, face on a day-to-day basis. I will strive to educate myself on the issues that communities face so that I can be an ally and advocate for all students on this campus. I look forward to next year at the council table, making sure every student feels that I can be an advocate for them.
So as you all just saw what happened earlier, I personally do feel very unsafe on this campus because I don't think any student should be attacked in that way. And I'm not even Palestinian. It's only because of my Muslim identity. For that reason, I think we should all make sure that we're properly educating students and making sure that we're not conflating religious, national, and political identities together. Furthermore, I will definitely be holding office hours as your next general representative to make sure that students have a safe space on this campus to go to speak about these ideas. Furthermore, as my non-denominational prayer and meditation space, it'll be the first interfaith space on campus where religious identities can come and talk about their issues.
A lot of people have been saying that this is a controversial issue that needs to be thought out from both sides, but the question asked, how would general representatives make Palestinian students feel safe on campus? I don't think that's a divisive question at all. I believe that UCLA should be a home for us all, and so I think it's student government's responsibility to hold administration accountable to ensuring that all communities here feel safe. You're not entitled to comfort, but you are entitled to safety. Let's act that leads in a safe and inclusive campus for all communities. So I think that by listening and really supporting the efforts of the community leaders from the communities who feel marginalized, that's how we move forward and ensure that all of us feel safe.
May I please have the representative from the Transfer Student Alliance come to the mic?
All right, Rick.
Rick? Yeah, Rick. Yeah, Rick.
I'll try to find my question real quick. So what will you do to help transfer? Oh, sorry, that's from AC. I need coffee. But anyways, what's the #1 issue facing transfer students right now, and how will you bring awareness about and fight for lasting change regarding that issue?
Beginning with Matt.
Not being a transfer student, I don't know the biggest problem that they face day in and day out on campus. However, I will work with your next transfer student representative, Ariel Rafalian, to make sure that all transfers feel like they have a safe and easy transition into their time here at UCLA. On top of that, I want my office to be all-inclusive, including those transfers that have just stepped on UCLA's campus, students from all walks of identities and communities here on campus, and making sure that all Bruins feel safe and we foster a positive campus climate here at UCLA. Thank you.
I'm not a transfer student, so I don't know the issues affecting you. However, I would like for you to come to my office hours to discuss these issues. I want to respect the office hour precedent set at this school by Chancellor Jean Block, so I will be having 1 office hour per quarter, and I will email the entire school about it.
So I'm a transfer student, and aside from the fact that I'm the internship director in the transfer student representative office and made sure that we did adequate research in regards to transfer needs, personally, I did not feel included on this campus, and I felt that the access to resources was lacking. And so I think that the biggest issue with transfers is to have accessibility to such resources. My platforms may not be transfer specific, but that does not mean I'm going to limit myself from co-programming with my transfer student representative, Katiana Hempstead, that these issues are being discussed because we are just as relevant as traditional students.
Since I'm not a transfer student, I think it'd be inappropriate of me to say that what is the most pressing issue facing the transfer community. But what I can say, as a general representative, with my responsibility to represent all the students that are on campus, I look forward to working with our future transfer representative, Ariel Rafalian, pursuing his visions for how we can make UCLA a more transfer-friendly university.
Having worked closely with Anais and also your next transfer representative, Katiana Hempstead, I will be making sure that I can very closely incorporate transfers into my peer mentorship program to make sure that not only will they succeed academically, especially South Campus transfer majors who struggle a lot, especially engineering majors who end up having to stay 3 years or more, but making sure that they're able to get involved in the UCLA community, get involved and feel a part of the UCLA community, and not feel like they're stigmatized or not a traditional student.
I think the most pressing issue facing the transfer community today is that they don't feel connected to the UCLA campus. And this is an issue that I plan to address through 2 avenues. First, with UCLA Pro Tips, ensuring that all students are able to give empowered Bruin advice to those who need it, whether you're a first-year traditional student or a UCLA transfer. And I also plan on working with our next UCLA transfer student representative, Katiana Hempstead, in order to ensure continued advocacy efforts to ensure that there's a UCLA transfer center here on this campus. Thank you.
Postgrad success is a question and something that every Bruin is concerned about. Through my Talk Worldly platform, I hope to be advocating for postgrad opportunities, working with the Career Center as well as with the Alumni Affairs Office. Further, I want to work with Ariel Rafalian, your next transfer student representative, and the program so that Bruins are connected with mentors on campus.
May I please have the representative from Samahan Filipino come to the mic?
Let me pick a question.
Do you believe cultural organizations should receive more resources than other organizations on this campus?
Beginning with Jason. That's a good question. And as I said earlier, it deserves a great answer. So, yes.
I do believe that cultural organizations need more accessibility in regards to programs, specifically in my personal experience. Being part of the Army and Student Association, we don't have an access retention program. And so I know that my president, Morris Sarafian, and my academic affairs commissioner, Kevin Casasola, are currently working on providing that retention access program for not only the Army and Student Association, but for any other cultural community who feels as though they don't have access to any resources.
I appreciate the efforts of cultural organizations on our campus to promote their communities and to increase the diversity of UCLA so that all Bruins can be aware of our neighbors at our school. That being said, I believe all student groups, including cultural groups, deserve the maximum amount of funding they can receive on our campus through our student government, and I'm excited to look forward ways I can work with all student groups on our campus to ensure that they receive the funding they deserve for their events.
I believe there's a difference between equality and equity. Though there may be equal resources, not all cultural groups have the same accessibility to these resources. We should also keep in mind that these cultural groups may, in a lot of cases, need a lot more funding as well as more access to these resources because most of them don't have proper visibility on this campus. Most of them are the only places for communities that are marginalized and underrepresented, that usually don't have these resources, not even in this UCLA campus, but as well as outside of this UCLA campus. Cultural nights are sometimes the only times that cultural communities have the time to come together and show that their presence on this campus. And we don't even have accessibility to things like voice that are made for students on this campus.
I'd like to reiterate what my past two sisters running for general representative also said. There is a big difference between equality and equity. And everyone should have access to funding, and you should be able to apply for it. And I do hope, as Danny said, that each student organization receives the most funding that it can. But in terms of thinking about equity, we need to remember that certain cultural organizations are doing access and retention work, are reaching out to communities, are really doing work beyond just UCLA, but actually impacting the world as a whole. And that's a priority that I think we should all have.
As the current student group liaison for pre-professional organizations in the IBD office, as well as the external affairs director for UCLA Tara, Cultural South Asian Performing Arts Group, I know firsthand how hard it is to get funding from here. I think accessibility to funding is a huge issue, and I think that we need to continue to make strides for all student groups on this campus to have funds that are more accessible. And I look forward to working with Heather Hardiquin, your internal vice president next year, to be able to work with funding.
Bruins United was founded on three main platforms: beer, tacos, and money. Money promoted equal funding for all student groups on campus, and all students pay the same amount for USAC, so that is what I seek to represent, all students here. I acknowledge that there may be an access problem, but I will strive once I'm in office to better fund those cultural groups that feel like they are lacking the money they need for the events that they want to put on. Thank you.
Can I please have the representative for Hillel at UCLA with your question?
How have you fought for or advocated for the needs of the UCLA Jewish community in the past?
Annalise, when you're ready.
As the president of my associate student government at College of the Canyons, I was making sure that every single student on the campus felt that their voice was being heard. Aside from that, although I do not personally identify with the Jewish community, I feel that I need to constantly maintain communication with the Jewish community and make sure that their voices are being heard and make sure that they don't feel that they're being marginalized or silenced. And so maintaining that relationship, creating that constant communication is essential as my role as a general representative.
As a member of the Jewish community at UCLA, I am incredibly proud of the accomplishments I've had for this community in my time here at UCLA. Through my involvement in my fraternity, Alpha Epsilon Pi, a Jewish fraternity, as well as my involvement as a member of Hillel, I look forward next year at the council table to continue to represent the Jewish community and in addition to all communities on our campus.
In working to establish the non-denominational prayer and meditation space, I've already taken the proper steps in presenting to council the resolution that passed unanimously to recognize that this space is very needed, especially for Jewish students. I don't think Jewish students should have to go all the way to Hillel, which I know is off campus, just to find a proper and safe space on campus to feel like they can worship and just to feel like they can meditate and feel safe on this campus. I've already spoken to and presented to the ASUCLA Board of Directors that took my presentation very positively about converting the third floor underutilized spaces of Ackerman Union into a permanent prayer space.
So Let's Act believes in the empowerment of all communities on campus. And even though some issues may have been deemed divisive in the past, I think it's important that we move forward and recognize that we can empower all communities here. So the Know Your Rights campaign and symposium, as I said earlier, is a platform that really strives to ensure that you know your rights, your legal rights, but as well as your legal resources. So anytime that students feel that they're not being represented adequately, you can go back to your administrators and go back to student government, ensuring that you have the resources that you need to make your voice heard.
Although I personally do not identify as a Jewish student, I will strive to be an advocate and ally for Jewish students on the council table next year. I have experience in advocating for communities that I don't necessarily identify with as a student group liaison for pre-professional students this year. And I have made strides in educating myself about the Jewish cause by going to the Holocaust remembrance events, and I hope to continue to do this as a council member next year.
I've attended Shabbat and other Jewish events here on UCLA's campus, and I've reached out to those Jewish student leaders so I may better understand the struggles that they face on UCLA's campus and how I can better represent them. However, I do understand that learning is a continual process, and I'll strive not only to learn more about the Jewish community here on campus, but all communities that I do not directly identify or represent here, and so I can better promote all students' true Bruin experience here at UCLA.
I have always been a friend to the Jewish people. My cousins are Jewish, and I'm actually a member of the Jewish Community Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I'd like to focus on the future instead of the past. The Jewish people on this campus need a voice, and I feel that I can be that. Write a referendum involving Jewish issues, and I will sign it. I'm not going to read it at all, but I will sign it.
Can I please have the representative for Students for Justice in Palestine with our final question for the general representatives?
Hi, everyone. So considering the heckling that was going on earlier, how are you going to challenge white privilege and class privilege?
Beginning with Danny.
Well, I think the first step I can take to challenging white or class privilegers at this campus is understanding the privilege that I have and being aware of it in the decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis. I know I can be a beneficial member of the UCLA community and society at large if I am aware of the privileges that I have in society and make sure that the day-to-day actions I take, that I try to show that I'm a tolerant individual and to reduce my ignorance I have to people who may not share the privileges that I have. Next year on the council table, I look forward to continually being aware of the privileges I have in society so I can better represent all students on our campus.
As you did see with the heckling that just happened, I feel like I have fallen victim a lot to things like privilege that have attacked me directly. I will be making sure that all students feel safe on this campus, as I've already done through Chai Talks, as well as reaching out to cultural organizations and establishing the hub through the multicultural engagement component of the General Representative One office, and bringing together these cultures in the hub and having them work together. I will also be making sure to institutionalize this through my Hungry for Change campaign that will also be working towards class privilege by making sure that communities that are often underserved have the opportunity to learn about other cultures.
I think that when it comes to recognizing the inequality within systems here, at UCLA and in the world, it's not enough to just understand or listen, but we really have to stand in solidarity with the people that are being oppressed by the privileges that we have. So that means that you do your best to educate yourself, but then you also take action to ensure that those conditions don't just stay the way they are. So my office, if I'm elected, will be a safe space where people can come, but also a brave space where you can learn how to support the communities that don't have the privileges that you might have. Thank you.
That heckling was extremely disrespectful, and as an international South Asian student, I will relate to the microaggressions and things like these that are faced by certain students on this campus. I think this really comes from a lack of understanding and education about different communities and their different needs. Through Bruin First Fridays, I want to celebrate the diversity on this campus and educate us about the different issues, the different communities on this campus, so that we can be a lot more culturally aware and culturally competent.
I acknowledge my privileges that I have and how it affects my life on a day-to-day basis. I find it important to be extremely critical of myself, and I strive to always understand those other privileges that I may not identify myself with directly. However, on the council table, I recognize that it is my job to clearly represent all students, and I will always try to do that when I'm sitting on the council table here next year.
Class privilege is tragic when you're not on the better side of it. All races should have class privilege. I was very underprivileged when signing up for classes last quarter. I had such a horrible enrollment time. If you join the after party, I will fight for the after party's first privilege for enrollment periods. Thank you.
I personally believe that that kind of behavior was unacceptable, and I think it is our duty as general representative to raise that collective consciousness about the diverse communities on this campus, and to make sure that no person on this campus feels as though they are being targeted. That is not fair. That is not what we stand for. That is not what true Bruins are all about. And so as your next general representative, I will make sure that I create safe spaces and collaborate with different offices to make sure that every single student on this campus feels safe and feels as though their identity is not a target.
Okay, before we finish, a question was brought up about the phrasing of that question, and while the phrasing was not pre-approved, the message of the question was still the same as the original question that was asked. In the future, I will make note of this and let everyone know that the question was not phrased in the exact same way, if that is the case. And remember, candidates, you have the right to answer or not answer a question. If it is deviating too much from the message of the original question, I will disqualify the question. But since that question had the same original intent, I felt that it was okay. General Representatives, that concludes your time here. Thank you. Could I please have the representatives, or the candidates, I'm sorry, for the external vice president. As well as the following student group representatives: Jewish Voice for Peace, Transfer Student Alliance, Indian Student Union, Mixed Student Union, Hillel at UCLA, and Samahang Toking. So as per usual, we'll begin with the 2-minute introductory speeches, beginning with the name.
You better work. Hello, my fellow Bruins. How are you all doing tonight? My name is Danae Joseph, and I'm your next external vice president. Yeah, you are.
I identify as a Black, undocumented woman. I was born in Belize and came to the United States at the age of 7 years old. As confident as I am in claiming my status as an undocumented woman, I wasn't always this way, as I was continuously told to stay quiet, get through, to not draw attention, to rustle any feathers. But I was never sold on this approach, as I wanted to utilize my opportunities and 3 years of USAC experience in community organizing to empower those around me to reach their highest potential. Coming to UCLA and joining the External Vice President's office empowered me to claim my identities and utilize them to fuel my passion and commitment to pursue advocacy efforts that seek to improve accessibility, affordability, and diversity of the UC and higher education. Because after all, education should be a right and not a privilege. My experiences and access to opportunities should not be the exception, but rather the norm. So I want to use advocacy and organizing efforts to help students recognize their individual power to be able to create long-lasting change in the world in which we live. First, I will promote education and engagement in the 2016 election by hosting a fun and informative festival called Vochella, meant to engage, educate, and excite UCLA students to get out the vote. Second, I will strengthen student voice in UC leadership by starting a conversation about expanding the student regent position and regental reform. Third, I will hold elected officials accountable for implementing legislation, because we all know that there's a difference between how the law is written and how it's actually implemented. Granted, I want to ensure that legislators are held accountable to ensure that students are benefiting from policies that have the ability to positively impact their lives. Lastly, I want to amplify student concern concerning the tuition increase. Woo!
Yes! That's my successor.
I'm Zach Helder, and I'm the External Vice President candidate for Bruin United. We have a choice in this election to choose the politics of cynicism or the politics of opportunity. The UC system faces a time of trouble. Tuition hikes, lack of representation, and divisive leaders threaten the fate of students. The nature and gravity of these issues tend to yield one of two outcomes: either disgust, distrust, disillusionment, in a word, cynicism, or hope, unity, and coalition building, simply opportunity. I choose the latter. This began with my involvement in an organization called Front Porch Alliance. The community of Ivanhoe, the most underserved community in Kansas City, was one where I spent countless days of my childhood engrossing myself in community efforts to end violence and bring opportunity back to Ivanhoe. Where others would have been made cynical by the many deaths, the hunger, and the poverty of the Ivanhoe community, I saw an opportunity to make a difference. This is the context in which every one of my efforts has since been framed. Where the corruption and voter suppression of Kansas City elections would have turned others away, I saw an opportunity to be a special advocate for voting rights of the Missouri Democratic Party. Where the criminalization of the LGBT community in Uganda, torture in the Western Sahara, or the brokenness of the LA Unified School District would have exhausted others, I saw an opportunity as the Associate West Coast Coordinator of Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights. Where the student voice has been obstructed by a broken USAC and many have given up, I see an opportunity. Throughout the course of the night, you will hear my specific and comprehensive solutions to the problem of tuition, shared governance, and the structure and scope of the EVP office. But the reason that I am running is this: if we can unite and leverage our collective agency as students and a powerful coalition of stakeholders across the state, we can and we will win this fight.
Okay, we will begin with the Q&A, starting with Jewish Voice for Peace with your question.
Hi. Now that we have passed a resolution in support of divesting from companies that profit from and help sustain human rights abuses against Palestinians, do you plan on further pressuring the regents to follow through on this resolution and commit to ethical investments? How so?
Yes, I do believe that that is something important moving forward. One, because it's one thing, and I mentioned that, passing a resolution is highly symbolic. Moving forward, we need to ensure that it's actually implemented in the proper manner. We've seen about 7 of the UC schools vote to divest, and moving forward, we need to seek to ensure that students are being represented on a UC-wide level as well. Thus, I want to be able to continue these conversations to identify, specifically with meeting with Students for Justice in Palestine, to identify what their next steps are. For me, as an external vice president, I'm meant to represent the interests of students moving forward, and that's what I hope to do.
I don't want to avoid this issue anymore. When in the same term, a resolution that specifically targets Israel is passed, and a remarkably qualified Jewish candidate is questioned on the basis of her Jewish identity. How can we pretend that this is a human rights issue anymore? I worked for a human rights organization for 2 years. What the Jewish community and every other community needs on this campus is an external vice president that will not divide the community like this.
May I please have the representative from Transfer Student Alliance with your question?
How will you ensure that on a statewide level, that transfer admissions and the general transfer function remains a pipeline for diversity and affordable, inclusive access to higher education for everyone?
I don't identify as someone who is a transfer student. However, I know many transfer students, and I do identify with many of the struggles in which the transfer community feels. Simply because I commute, I've been commuting for the past 3 years. Not only that, as someone who identifies as a Black undocumented woman, I understand what it means to be marginalized and underrepresented in these spaces. Granted, what I want to do is utilize the Bruin core component of the external vice president to ensure that my transfer representative, Kitiana Hempstead, is being represented when we attend these lobby visits to ensure that the voices of the transfer students are represented in those spaces.
So first of all, I'd like to express my confidence in Ariel Rafalian and all that he's done. Second, I'd like to address the fact that as external vice president, I'll be addressing issues that affect all students very closely and importantly, like tuition and like student representation on the Board of Regents. Of course, the transfer experience is one integral to the nature of how things work at UCLA. So in the Standing Committee on Student Life that I've been working on and that I envision will succeed once I become the external vice president is created, the transfer student community will have representation on that.
May I please have the representative from Indus with your question?
Hello, back with the South Asian Solidarity. How do you plan to help out South Asians in general and kind of sort of identify with issues they face?
Beginning with, sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
Yeah, how do you plan to kind of stand in solidarity with South Asian communities and use your programs to help that community?
So that is slightly phrased slightly differently. You have the choice of answering or not.
What do you think is missing from the South Asian community, and how have you, or what do you plan on doing to fix that and help the South Asian community in particular?
I don't object to the original question. I was just questioning what order we were going.
Okay, Zach, you can begin.
I'll go first. So first of all, one of my, I think, most exciting platforms is something called Bruin Defenders. It's modeled off of a program I worked for with Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights that connects students to resources and partner organizations so that they can affect issues they're passionate about. I envision this being an umbrella program for a broad range of communities and ideologies to be housed under the same office, so it can be open and inclusive and provide resources to a broad range of communities to affect issues like South Asian issues.
What I want to do is utilize 2 things. One, coalition building, being able to work alongside South Asian students to identify what they want to be able to see on the UCLA campus and UC-wide. Not only that, I want to ensure that they are represented in the communities that we have when we send delegations to the various conferences the external vice president's office houses. I want to be able to do that because it provides a perfect opportunity for us to be able to identify issues that we can advocate on behalf of UC-wide. It's one thing for us to be able to advocate on the UCLA level, but UCLA is a microcosm of the world.
May I please have the Indian Student Union representative with your question? Okay. The mixed student union?
Do you believe in affirmative action? If so, what have you done to support these policies?
Yes, I firmly do believe in affirmative action, and I think we have to be able to clear the misconceptions that's had about affirmative action. When it was first started, it was meant to directly impact those who identified as white women, because to build up their representation, because they had been underrepresented by their male counterparts. I want us to be able to ensure that the diversity of this campus is as rich as the campus and the entities in which are surrounded us. And I think we need to ensure that our diversity is good, because our education is only as good as those who we surround ourselves by.
So I too actually believe in affirmative action, but I think I also want to make it clear that the external vice president's office should be one about consensus building. It should be one that's relatively protected from issues of politics, and I want to make sure that before we take action on this issue, which again, it's something that I'm passionate about and believe in, that we build consensus on campus and raise awareness on campus so that the issue isn't a divisive one, and it's one that we can all have some agreement on.
May I please have the student representative for Hillel at UCLA with your question?
How have you fought for or advocated for the needs of the UCLA Jewish community in the past?
Beginning with Zach.
Again, I think it's worth noting that the Jewish community has faced particular hardships this year, and that whoever sits on the council table in this position needs to recognize those issues. Again, I work for a human rights organization. I've seen human rights violations on both sides of the issue, and I want to be sure that we don't confuse anti-Semitism with resolutions on behalf of human rights.
What's really important is that we ensure that Jewish students have representation, making sure that they feel as though their voices are being heard. And that's what I like to do. As the State Affairs Director in the External Vice President's Office at the moment, I seek to ensure that they're represented in all delegations that we have. Not only that when when we have rallies, protests, whenever we have town halls, any sorts of forums, that those students are being invited to participate and making sure that their voices are being currently heard for. Thank you.
With our final question for EVP, would the Samahan Filipino representative please come to the mic?
Sean, if I have a question that I'd like to propose to you, is it too late to do that?
I would ask you to not do that, please.
Okay. But if I were to ask a question
That you originally.
that I hadn't originally submitted, would they still have the option to accept or not answer?
No, it has to be a question that we do.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. So what state or national campaigns have you implemented, and how will you develop them further next year? Thank you.
As a board member on the University of California Student Association's Board of Directors, we've advocated on 3 campaigns, 3 institutionalized campaigns. One that's Fund the UC, the next being You Consent, and the last being Ignite, Invest in Graduations, Not Incarcerations, Transform Education. Those 3 campaigns seek to address various issues that impact students at the current moment. What we want to be able to do is make sure that students feel as though they're being represented in the best possible way. Not only that, being able to identify things that can be institutionalized so that the next year they can be continued upon. This should not be about politics, but issues.
So as the Associate West Coast Coordinator of Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights, I helped coordinate a program called Speech Choose to Power. And in this capacity, I traveled up and down the state all summer and have done so through this year to work on bringing human rights education to school districts, private schools, and charter schools across the state. There's been an enormous amount of success, and we've seen climate within classrooms improve considerably. And again, I'd like to apply some of the principles I learned from that program to the Bruin Defenders program next year.
That is all external vice president candidates. Thank you for your time. have the candidates for the internal vice president position. So before we continue, I'd like to say that it is not the election board nor myself's intent to pick on a particular candidate or individual, and that it is only our interest as the election board to represent the student body and the student groups as well as possible. And I take full blame for the rephrasing of the question and not informing the candidates on that change. And if that happens again, I will be sure to do that for future questions. Thank you. Bear with the election board, this is a new process. I will be sure to let you know when questions have been rephrased from now on.
Now back to Devyani, girls.
You may begin with your 2-minute introductory speeches.
3 years ago, I was the international student from Jammu and Kashmir, India, who couldn't find Royce on a map. Fast forward to today, and UCLA is home away from home. Now, as an RA in residential life, I work closely with students to foster an environment of inclusivity and with entities like UCPD to create a safer living experience on the Hill. As the IVP of the On-Campus Housing Council, I help bridge the gap between the Hill and different organizations on campus. Being a part of the USAC Office of the President my sophomore and junior year, I helped institutionalize different projects like the Bruin card redesign, Night YRL, USAC Open House, and USAC Community Forums. Even in all this experience, I know it's time for change. It's time for a new beginning, and it's time to make sure USAC is more relevant to you. As your next internal vice president, I will implement a camp program to combat cyberbullying and hate speech and to promote the value of an inclusive campus. I will also advocate for stay-over-friendly and gender-inclusive housing on campus. Next, I will develop alternate methods for student organizations to access USAC funding. And lastly, I will organize UCLA street food cinema events to de-stress during the school year while celebrating the beauty of UCLA under the stars. There's a USAC bubble, and it's my time to burst it. It's time to forge paths of mutual association and trust on the campus, the Hill, in the apartments, and the greater Los Angeles community. It's time we actually step out of the confines of Kirkhoff and into UCLA. I will set the standards for campus engagement, inclusion, and spirit so us Bruins can maximize our UCLA experience. It's time for me to take the reins and to shake things up. My name is Devyani Rana, and I'm running with USAC to be your next internal vice president. I will never forget the moment I opened my UCLA admission email. That feeling of immeasurable excitement at the prospect of being a Bruin. That sigh of relief that years of hard work paid off. That sheer joy at the idea that UCLA would become my home away from home. And now, even 3 years later, that feeling hasn't faded. That feeling runs in the veins of each and every Bruin and is alive across our campus. If there's anything I've learned throughout my time here at UCLA in my involvement in Colleges Against Cancer, my sorority Pi Beta Phi, and most recently my work as USAC Internal Vice President, the more you give UCLA, the more you get out of it. As IVP, I was able to fulfill the promises made by my predecessor while simultaneously paving a path of my own. I successfully implemented the Circle of Six mobile application, created a common funding application, and hosted UCPD open forums and the Spring Activities Fair. While I'm proud to say that I've institutionalized change, my work is not yet done. I am so excited to build upon the momentum I've already started in my office this year by implementing my own vision for IVP and for our school. As your next internal vice president, I will emphasize safety and self-empowerment by working with UCPD to increase lighting and by implementing the body positive. I will create an alternative funding source for student groups because as your current internal vice president, I know the role that our student groups play on this campus.
I will work to reclaim our union by asking for your input in the way our union operates. And lastly, I will build bridges between all Bruins by bringing students from all pockets of campus together to engage in dialogue and learn from one another. I love UCLA, and it is because of that love that I stand before you all tonight, ready to invest the next year of my life to making this school, this campus, and this community all that it can and all that it should be. My name is Heather Fortiquin. I am the current internal vice president. I'm your next internal vice president, and we are Bruins United.
I have the student group representatives from Jewish Voice for Peace, Transfer Student Alliance, Bruin Republicans, Indus, Students for Justice in Palestine, Indian Student Union, and Hillel at UCLA come to the area. And Samahang Filipino come to the front area. And we will begin with the Indian Student Union if you have any questions. Nope. Students for Justice in Palestine.
What steps will you take to ensure your constituents that you will prioritize their needs first and foremost?
Beginning with Devyani.
I don't believe USAC is the end-all. I believe USAC is a tool for all students to utilize to have agency to implement positive change on this campus. When I'm internal vice president, we'll not only celebrate weeks, but we'll actively address issues like mental health, racial profiling, etc. to make sure we actively seek out community needs to work with student organizations through the student group liaisons to have the office have a master plan for quarterly objectives that it can fulfill properly. As your current internal vice president, I have worked with the student group liaison component of my office to reach out to student organizations across our campus in order to engage in dialogue and listen to their needs. As your next internal vice president, I will continue to do that as well, but I will also be implementing Bruin's Build Bridges in order to foster dialogue not only within subcomponents of the SGL program, but between subcomponents of the student group liaison component as well.
Can I have the student representative from Bruin Republicans with your question?
Many students and student groups at UCLA do not participate in student government elections because their student government is entirely irrelevant. USAC has spent the last several years passing meaningless resolutions that do nothing to improve the lives of students at UCLA. What will you do to make USAC relevant to the student body?
Beginning with Heather.
As a council member, it's incredibly important to be listening to a variety of different communities all across the UCLA campus, and so that I think that it is important for student organizations to come forward with resolutions with issues that do pertain to their community. As far as campus engagement goes, I will use the student group liaison component of my office to outreach to student organizations.
Under the office of the president, under my president, Devin Murphy, I already planned a USAC open house and plan to institutionalize it within my IVP office. And I know people don't think USAC is relevant. That's why I want to get something fun on campus. I want to bring UCLA street food cinema events so that all students can go out to these programs and enjoy food, film, and music. All the while, I can show them trailers of the things that USAC offices have already done and hope to achieve in the upcoming weeks and in the quarter.
Jewish Voice for Peace with your question.
Given that our university is currently invested in companies that are involved in human rights abuses against Palestinians, what will you do to ensure that Palestinians feel safe on this campus?
Beginning with Devyani.
Coming from a conflict zone of Kashmir myself, I completely understand how people feel when their communities are misrepresented on campus and that they do not feel safe on campus. As your next internal vice president, I want to make sure that no student who is on this campus feels unsafe. And I want to make sure that I work with the Campus Safety Alliance to ensure all the communities on campus are represented equally and that we just don't talk to administration or the people who are on that board. I want to actively seek community opinion and make sure that every student on campus knows what the Campus Safety Alliance does for them.
As your current internal vice president, I have worked on numerous initiatives that do address campus safety. I programmed a Campus Safety Week a few weeks back that provided resources for all Bruins and how to report incidences that do come up. I also sit on the Campus Safety Alliance, in which I work with UCPD, the Office of Emergency Management, and the Campus Safety Education Committee that is in Res Life, and I think that it's incredibly important to utilize these resources to ensure that everyone feels safe on this campus.
Thank you, Student Alliance Representative, with your question.
One in three UCLA undergraduates is a transfer students. However, they are disproportionately underrepresented in campus leadership and student group involvement. What will you do to combat this trend?
Heather, you will begin first.
I think that it's incredibly important to have transfer student representation in all pockets of campus. And as your next internal vice president, I will be outreaching to the transfer students through my running mate, Ariel Rafalian, and his connections with the transfer community in order to increase their engagement, not only in USAC, but with other student organizations on this campus. As a resident assistant in residential life, I think it's a problem when my transfer residents tell me that they don't feel safe on campus. I want to work with my running mate, Titiana Hempstead, to make sure that we can institutionalize programs that are effective for transfer students. I want to make sure that as your next internal vice president, I actively advocate in the housing administration to make sure that housing is inclusive of transfer students and that they feel that they're included in all events put on, not only on the Hill, but also on campus.
Due to the interest of time, we need to continue on to the presidents. For the student groups that did not have their questions asked for this position, you'll have priority for the president's questions. But we are running short on time as they need to clean up the room soon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Internal Vice President.
Thank you.
Candidates, when you're ready with your 2-minute introductory speeches, we'll begin with Morris.
Hey Bruins, my name is Morris Serafian, and I'm your LETAC candidate for USAC president. Growing up in Little Armenia, I was taught that there was no world outside of our neighborhood, but my family pushed me to work hard, to realize the dreams that they never could. I walked onto this campus ready to carry my community, but I immediately felt stripped of my voice. It was through my involvements in multiple USAC offices and student organizations that I found my voice. Serving in the External Vice President's office as the Legislative Director, I've coordinated over 100 lobby visits in the past 3 years to advocate for students like you and I, who do not have adequate resources to succeed. As the Student Wellness Commission's student representative to the Campus Retention Committee, I gained first-hand experience at how difficult it is to make sure that students retain themselves and graduate. And lastly, serving as the special projects coordinator for the Armenian Students Association, I found how difficult it was to bring tangible student issues to the council table. Across all involvements, I have carried the Armenian community and the Swana community on my back. And I'm here today ready to carry the Bruin community on my back to improve our campus. As your next USAC president, I will utilize the Council of Presidents to hold our regents accountable so that students are deciding our own fates. Through my Bruin Empowerment Initiative, I will create forums and spaces to address issues that negatively affect campus climate. I will work to equip students with the online resources and programs necessary for our success in the 21st century. Lastly, through the creation of the Royce Hall Reservation Grant, I will help student organizations to utilize the symbol of our campus for events. We need a more inclusive, affordable, and empowering Bruin experience. Let's make student issues the focal point of USAC. And I am Morris Serapia.
In a class I took last quarter, my professor asked the students to list out the grievances we had about this school. We went on for 30 minutes citing things from the tuition hike, to the cost of textbooks, to the lack of career services. Then he stopped us and asked, well, what have you done to change this? And while every student looked baffled, I confidently raised my hand and explained my role as your financial supports commissioner, where I established a private transportation scholarship, a Westwood discount program, and provided for postgraduate success workshops, and expanded financial literacy through personal financial resources. Leaders do not wait. Leaders are at the forefront of making the changes they want to see. In fact, a lack of progress is an injustice, and USAC is the tool through which this school can achieve the necessary positive change. That is why I'm pushing forward my innovative platforms that will improve the Bruin experience for all undergraduates. From institutionalizing a middle-income scholarship, to promoting food security and food sustainability, to advocating for dead days before finals, I look forward to serving as your captain, your pilot, your leader for feasible, tangible, long-lasting change. Besides fulfilling my campaign promises, I will be representative of UCLA undergraduate students from our campus and beyond. I have already established firm relationships with administrators on campus, as well as advocated for students' needs before powerful decision makers at the University of California and state government levels. As president, I will also be responsible for facilitating council meetings. As the council chairperson, I will run council meetings in a productive, solution-oriented way while maintaining an environment that is comfortable for everyone to openly express their opinions. What makes me qualified to do this? Because I have sat at that table in Kirkhoff 417 every Tuesday and learned from seeing the successes and failures of meeting facilitators. With that all being said, we as UCLA have had some amazing people represent us, and I want to continue the legacy that past USAC presidents have established. Are these big shoes to fill? Absolutely. But I believe my size 9 will fit just fine. I'm Heather Rosen, and we are Bruins United.
We have about 10 to 12 minutes for questions from student groups, so if we move quickly, we can try and get through all of them. We'll begin with Indus with your question.
How have you previously engaged in the South Asian community?
Even though I do not identify as a South Asian, I actually work to create a UC-wide South Asian and Swana coalition, which is still functioning today, to increase access to resources for our communities. As an Armenian, I understand that we have similar narratives, and I actually want to use the Bruin Empowerment Initiative to create the sort of forums and spaces necessary for our communities to continue the sort of coalition building necessary for us to create institutionalized change that can benefit all communities.
Within the Financial Supports Commission, I have established the Campus Outreach Committee, which has worked to reach out to over 400 student organizations to make sure our resources are accessible. As USAC president, I am a representative of all 29,000 undergraduates. And I want to make sure I'm doing this by particularly encouraging the education of the South Asian community, and by making sure that students understand the different identities that are within the South Asian community, and to understand each of the needs of every identity and never to politicize them.
For student group representative for Hillel at UCLA, please come to the mic.
I'm Omar and I'm subbing in. Given a very recent controversial issue at USAC, how do you intend to represent the Jewish community specifically at council?
The phrasing was slightly changed from the beginning of that part. You're welcome to answer that question or not. But the intent of the original question is still there. Yes, beginning of
This year, I served on the council as the Financial Sports Commissioner. And on February 10th, a Jewish student was being considered for a position which she was very qualified for. My opponent was there as a proxy, and others at the table almost denied this person the position and called it in terms of divided loyalties. And I stood up for her and ensured that anti-Semitism had no place at the council table. As president, I will continue to make sure that is something I'm advocating for each and every day, because no identity here at UCLA should ever be politicized.
As your next USAC president, I will take a firm stance against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate speech on this campus. As someone who identifies as Armenian, I know far too well how hate speech and systemic racism can destroy an entire community. And while I myself do not identify as a Jewish individual, I've actually made strides to improve relations with the Jewish community and reach out to members of the Hillel community as well, and present to members of the Hillel community about our similar narratives of genocide.
Will the Samahan Filipino representative please come to the mic with your question?
Do you believe in the reemergence of a program such as the High Potential program?
Beginning with Morris.
As an Armenian student, as a Swana individual, and as someone who identifies as a person of color, I know that it is shameful that we don't have enough people like me on this campus. And yes, I will work with my academic affairs commissioner, Kevin Casasola, to implement a reemergence of the High Potential program, because I know far too well that people who come from narratives like ours do not have access to resources that are needed to access higher education institutions. Thank you very much.
This year, as the Financial Supports Commissioner, I have worked actively with the Campus Retention Committee in making sure that our resources are accessible to all students here at UCLA. As USAC President, I want to make sure I'm continuously working to make sure we are representing all 29,000 undergraduates at the council table. We're continuously doing this day in and out. And it's also important that we're continuously educating ourselves. And it's not just something that should happen throughout the election process, but should continue to happen as a council member.
May I please have the representative for the Armenian Student Association with your question?
Hey, what have you done for UCLA students at a national, statewide, and local level?
As the legislative director of the External Vice President's Office for the past 2 years, I've had notable experience lobbying over 100 elected officials, from local individuals like Brad Sherman to the former House of Representatives Speaker. And yes, I worked on nationwide campaigns to increase funding for higher education. I worked on statewide campaigns to increase financial aid with regards to Prop 13 reform. And I worked on local campaigns to reform the way that the LA Unified School District implements willful defiance.
As the Financial Supports Commissioner, I have advocated for affordability here at UCLA by working closely with administrators. I've also had the opportunity to advocate for funding UC at the state level, where I work to make sure to be the representative of the Assembly Subcommittee number 2, where I insisted that we make it a priority to fund UC and fund higher education in regards to the governor's budget. I have also sat at the roundtable for Janet Napolitano for the University of California to make sure that we are advocating for students' needs and that we are providing for transparency, making sure Janet Napolitano is held accountable to the students.
Well, I please have a representative for the Students for Justice in Palestine.
Okay, let me make sure I get the right one. All right. What are your thoughts on the UC system being invested in and doing business with companies with a track record of human rights violations? There we go.
Beginning with Heather.
At the council table, I have advocated that we do make ethical investments an important priority. I recommended that we, through research that I had done as the Financial Supports Commissioner, I looked into which state governments we are invested in and looked at the human rights violations that they've had. However, it's important we look at this ethical investments holistically and never target one state above another and make any communities on campus feel uncomfortable or unsafe here at UCLA.
As one of the co-authors of a resolution to divest from Turkey because of its denial of the Armenian genocide, I know far too well that our UC system continues to invest its funds in nations that continue to violate human rights. And as such, I have the experience necessary to hold our UC regions accountable to make sure that the student voices that are had when we pass these USAC resolutions are actually have tangible goals so that we can implement them on a UC-wide basis. Also, with regards to, it's fine.
May I please have a representative for Jewish Voice for Peace?
Hi. Do you think that it is ethical to receive donations for your campaign by an individual or organization that promotes racism or Islamophobia?
Beginning with Morris.
Let's Act is a progressive coalition that is built on inclusivity and empowerment. And as such, as your next USAC president, I'll take a staunch stance against all forms of hate speech, including Islamophobia. And yes, I think it's incredibly problematic to take donations from individuals or organizations that perpetuate that sort of hate speech. Thank you very much.
Although I can only speak to my experiences, I can talk about how my campaign was funded. My campaign was funded by the money that I've earned working this entire summer. So this is where the money is coming from that I'm paying for. And as a USAC president, I want to make sure I'm held accountable for where my funding is coming from. And that's why I'm telling you all openly where it did come from working this summer, from babysitting for 2 beautiful children that I worked for during the summer. And that is where my funding came from.
For one or maybe 2 questions, so can we please have the Transfer Student Alliance representative?
Historically, very few transfer students apply for presidential appointments, and even fewer get confirmed for them. How will you increase the amount of transfer students who apply and are confirmed for presidential appointments?
Beginning with Heather.
I look forward to working with my running mate, Ariel Rafalian, for transfer students, specifically with his mentorship program, which will be connecting students during the summer with mentors. This is very important, especially as the appointment process I'm looking to revamp to make sure we are doing appointments earlier on in the year so they can have their entire term to continue out what they're appointed for. So I look forward to working closely with them and reaching out specifically to transfer students, because they are such a large portion of undergraduates, to make sure that they are represented in the appointment process.
Since a predominant majority of the transfer community are communities of color, I find it incredibly shameful that not enough transfers are even in UCLA. And also, as an appointment, I understand the appointment process very well since I actually went through it this year. So I will actually co-program with my transfer student representative, Kitiana Hempstead, to actively outreach to more transfer student organizations so that we can have more transfer narratives and more transfer perspectives be taken into account during the appointment process and throughout the year.
Thank you, candidates. Due to the time restraints of this room, unfortunately, we're going to have to conclude our endorsements hearing. Thank you to the student groups and the candidates for coming tonight. Please do come to the debates, which will be coming up soon. And for the student groups, for the endorsements process, the endorsement slip form will be up tonight. And you can, I love you. Yes.
Is there an open forum now for open questions?
There will be if you proceed outside. Unfortunately, I have to clean the room, but if there.
I don't know if it was like a scheduled thing or.
It was originally, but I think we've run out of time. Okay. But if they're comfortable, if we clean up the room here and you are behind the curtains, maybe you can talk to the student groups can talk to the candidates personally. Yeah.
Everybody, do the constraints of this room. We really need to get out like right now. So go talk, cheer, hang out over there. Please help ASUCLA out and clear the room. Thank you. We really appreciate your cooperation. We're glad you came out. Thanks.
It's okay. It's okay. I was just with everything else because that was just the you like it's a very effective sign. I recovered later on.
If it was reversed, how can we help?
I'm good. We're just gonna take care of all the tech stuff.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
ask those guys.
I'm so sleepy.
Yeah, I gotta study like a mug.
I know. I slept for all of today.
This
I'm
is
still
still
so
on.
tired. Oh my gosh.
We're still live.